There's a war going on.
It's a war going on inside, no man is safe from. Moving our deck, you're welcome to the womb of Rebecca. Battleground for a future election. This ain't a seesaw, cause we are the natural selection. If you're born first Esau, you're here, I'ma catch it. You ain't stealing my blessing, I ain't feeling your spirit. That's what we fighting for, you wanna be right, even when you're wrong. How could you know that you're off and speak like you're on? I need a witness in the earth or in heaven. Somebody please read these brothers, Romans 9 and 11.
Shalom everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Search Engine International. Alright, and I'm your host, Brother Gaja. Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever it is that you're tuning in from. Alright, all praise is due to the Most High, Ahayabashim Yishaya Wak Wadash Rawak. Alright, greetings to all the brethren across the earth right now tuning in live. Alright. Very interesting show this evening lineup for you. For the past couple of weeks, we've been having pastors, political activists, you name it, coming on. You know, we've been talking about Babylon, we've been talking about the end time prophecies. We've seen a lot of things happening right now throughout the earth, really. And also from a geopolitical standpoint as well. We see things going down and things that we have been preaching, or should I say the elders of the church, of the Gathering of Christ Church, been saying for quite some time now. In the news this week, we saw earlier this week on a video clip, we saw a woman being escorted out of a presidential press conference. Said she was heckling, but everything that was coming out of her mouth was truth. And it's like, I think right now the writing is on the wall right now. I mean, I see even on let me get Elder Gabar here in as well and get his
like
take on
20 minutes or a half hour. So big of something you can, okay?
Okay, hold up. Shalom, Elder Gabar, can you hear me?
Okay, you can rest a good hour and you can go, okay?
Okay, hold up 1 second. Elder Gabar right there. Busy bring him back in a second, right? We see mainstream. You see mainstream television right now, even making fun, of what we see, of what's going on. We see civilians being beat down. You understand me? We see the police force being ramped up with military activities. The soldiers looking more like military personnel more than anything else. So the writing is kind of like on the wall right now for those eyes to see. Elder Gabar, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. How we doing, brothers? How we doing?
I'm well, man. I'm well. All praise is due to the Most High. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know you called me the last minute to come in, and it's always a pleasure when I can. To come into the show is always a pleasure. So yeah, absolutely. So I'm listening and can't wait for the guests to come in. And it's going to be a beautiful thing. Yeah, man, it should be a good show. You'll be in a minute. I was just saying, for the past couple of weeks, we've been having a couple of months really. We've had political activists on the show. We have had so-called pastors, and we're talking about the end time prophecies. We're talking about Babylon. What's really going on? Where's Babylon? And I mean, for quite some time now, we have thought that Babylon is America. We've seen a lot of the things that the elders been preaching. Yourself and Elder Rawchaa been preaching now, for the better part of over 10 years. And we see a lot of these things coming in, things that were spoken of, the drones, the military activity being up on the citizens. We've seen video clips heading out right now of every day almost. When I get a video of either police brutality or police performing live execution on street without impunity. You with me? And we see all these things coming forward. And what does it mean? Yeah. Well, absolutely. We all see all the writings in the wall. But sometimes we don't know exactly what to do, and there's different philosophy, and there's different people out there you know, I guess being with the word called fear mongering, so to speak. Now, we also a fear monger group, or we will be typecast as a fear monger group. But the fear that we're looking to for people to fear is the Most High, that final, you know, the final judgment. Now, you know, it is funny because, you know, right before the show, I was, you know, just doing some research because, as you know, I think I spoke to Elder Rawchaa this week and about, you know, the guest that we had on a few weeks back, the Irritated Genie. I think we had him twice. And you know, he was, you know, pro-African movement. And then just to do a little research on the brother, you know, I'm pretty sure by now everybody knows that he used to work for, or he still works, that's still in question, for Homeland Security. You know, he's originally from D.C. and things of that nature. And then when I first heard the situation, I was, you know, I didn't, you know, I quite didn't probably believe it. I didn't know it was, you know, it was rumor or it was something that he himself admitted. So, you know, I did the research, and yes, he, you know, he from the two reports on the matter. I don't know. I wasn't sure what year those reports came out, whether, you know, 2014 or what have you. Say that he is still working for the FEMA. He's still in the payroll. So that's a question I would like to ask him. But you know, Irritated Genie is a good example on everyone acknowledging the problem. You know, he touched on a lot of good points, as most of us are touching on these same points. You know, the oppression of the white race oppressing our people, the homosexual agenda within our community, the rape and molestation, all the pedophiles in our neighborhoods and things of that nature. And he addresses a lot of stuff that most black people and people of color already know there is an issue, and especially in the ghettos. But he's advocating violence. He's advocating we must eradicate all white people from the face of the earth. You know, and yeah, but go ahead.
No, I said it's funny with that Irritated Genie, because what you're saying is I actually found it out after he came on the second show, and how I found it out was actually I think it's Sarah Palin that put him on blast, and they actually did a report on it. You with me? And that's what I found. You with me? And you know, I was quite shocked by it. You understand me? It's almost as if he had you know, dual identity. But I mean, you know, in Babylon anything goes. You with me? But no real surprise in Babylon. Understand me? Well,
let me you know, break this down. Why I believe this guy is dangerous, and he may not, regardless whether he is official, you know, CIA agent, or whether he's just a guy who's trying to do the right thing or think he's doing the right thing. He's dangerous either or. If he's a CIA plant or some form of guy that the government's going to use, some form of mind control, you know, freak that they took, you know, 6 months or a year, you know, brainwashed him, and he's going to go one day go crazy. White people are going to, you know, the white media is going to use that as to look, any groups that he was affiliated with, you know, we have to check out. And this proves that hate crime promotes violence, and you know, these type of crimes, these type of talk about anti-government, anti-gay, anti-this or that, the other, is we should make illegal, because this is the end result of these type of things, hate crime. So if he's that, clearly we have to watch out for that guy. However, let's just say he's not that. Let's just say he's a guy that, you know, according to him, he was trying to start, you know, do some books and do some lecture within the black community. You know, that didn't work out for him, so he got a job in the private sector, and he ended up in, you know, working for Homeland Security. And the reason why he gave that he couldn't support himself doing he couldn't support himself is because, you know, there were many people were bootlegging his videos and his lectures and his books and things of that nature. And then he felt, you know, we as black people cannot, you know, if I produce something, I should be able to, you know, be supported by, you know, black people, not be stolen, not steal my work. And, you know, that's a legitimate reason, things of that nature. So he decided to go back to FEMA. My question is, if this brother already had these type of views, why would FEMA hire someone who is with these aggressive kind of, you know, these views? My theory is they did hire him intentionally to see, you know, to keep his you know, their eye on him, and he, brother Rawchaa, he reminds me of these guys that he may talk a good game, and I don't know the brother well, but you know, that's what that type of guy is dangerous. We have to watch out for, because he would talk a good game about, you know, we have to eradicate all white people, we have to eradicate this, we have to eradicate that. But when time get hard, and it's been proven, when time got hard, what he did, he got a job with the government. Not only any government agency, with FEMA. I mean, with Homeland Security. Homeland Security, from its conception, was a agency that was designed to remove or eradicate any terror groups that is within the Americas, or to investigate any is Homeland Security. It's to secure the homeland from terrorists. It came after 9/11, and he's going to join an organization that support that. I don't care whether he was, you know, taking out the trash and things of that nature. He should have thought, maybe this is not good for the black movement, especially if I want to, according to him, I want to dedicate my life to this. And the reason why I feel this guy is dangerous, people will take him seriously because he's articulate, he's smart, he presents himself well. Some crazy person will go out there and will have a gay neighbor or a white neighbor and get inspired by this guy, and go out there and start, you know, killing people and things of that nature, and you know, and maybe write in graffiti, you know, war and horizon, you know, that's his email, or his website, and things of that nature, and will blame the whole Pan-African or, you know, black conscious movement on what this guy is doing. So I think this guy is extremely dangerous, regardless whether he's a useful idiot or, you know, and I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's misguided. I think, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, are just weekend warriors. They talk about a good game, but when it comes down to it, they're not going to kill white people. They're going to go out there. They're not going to do, or they're not doing what they're claiming. They're claiming what they say is the solution for black people, you know, to eradicate every white person in the face of the earth. They're not going to do that. And if they're going to do that, you know, why record and openly say that you out there for the eradication of all white people? I think a lot of these guys are more dangerous. They do more harm than good and things of that nature. So I just want to make it put it in the record that the GOCC do not advocate violence against anyone. We are a spiritual organization. We do understand and we deal with controversial issues, and we don't back down from controversial issues, but we are not advocating violence against anyone. If no one put their hands on you, you should not put your hands on anybody. So I just want to make that clear, because it was kind of astounding. I know we probably didn't know who was this guy, what he was doing, but I'm very curious why a female would have hired him, knowing of his past. A B,
technologies and all that.
Right, and B, you know, why, you know, if this guy is talking this type of violence in this kind of situation, why he's so comfortable in, you know, and doing it in an open situation? Because prior to him, I always used to think, if the government would try to send a spy or a troublemaker to try to come in and inspire people to do crime, because that's what they do. You know, go in there, try to create a case, try to create a crime, inspire people to do this and things of that nature. They have done that with the Black Panther. They did that with with Malcolm X. With you know, they always try to take down our leaders from our community. They'll bring in pro and crow people to come in. If before this guy came in, he is literally the poster child for someone I would think that the government would come in to bring in someone to cause trouble and to inspire someone to commit a crime and things of that nature. So, you know, I believe he's very dangerous. He may not know how dangerous he is. I don't know if you know, I'm still on the fence whether he is work for the government, but I think these certain questions should be asked. Is he still in the payroll? If he's not in the payroll, how is he supporting himself? How he's, you know, running around doing these lectures and things of that nature? How can these things cost money? You know, who's supporting you? Who, you know? So I think these type of questions, if we do have him back on the show, it should be you know, addressed, you know, and things of that nature. And I don't know, because I know this weekend many of the different Israelite camps in New York, you know, being led by the ISUPK, doing a picnic and things of that nature. I'm assuming that the pro-African people are going to be there, maybe the polites and the Nasetas of the world. So he may be there. You know, these are questions that I'm going to ask him if he's there, because I think that type of thinking is very dangerous, regardless whether you believe it or not. That's if you're saying that in the open airways, that is exactly what the government is looking for. That type of rhetoric of killing white people and things of that nature. And even if you sincerely believe that, why would you be an idiot to put that in an open setting that they could come back and say, well, you're promoting hate speech? And what people don't understand, these laws are already in the papers. They're already they're already printed and they're already laws. If somebody kills someone and they did it because they were inspired by some religious nut or some religious person or some revolution person or some organization, the government has legal grounds to attack that organization because they say, well, you are vocating a riot, vocating violence and things of that nature. So there's really laws in the printed that the government could use. If some nincompoop would listen to this guy and say, yeah, I should kill some white people, I should kill some gay people because of this. Now, we're against homosexuality, we're against all the issues that this brother's talking about. We clearly are against. We do know we are oppressed by the European powers. We do know we don't want the homosexual agenda coming in our neighborhood. But the solution, killing them and eradicating them through violence, is not the solution. In things of that nature. It's us coming back to the commandments of the Heavenly Father and accepting Christ as our Savior, and then moving forward and addressing these issues. I don't have a problem addressing these issues, but not in a way that he's talking about violence. So I just want to just say that, because sometimes you get you're guilty by association. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay. Yeah, man. And also, as I was saying earlier before, what do you reckon of all the cases going on right now, where we see like the police brutality going up, and I saw some videos coming in from over here in the UK where people just being beat down, the police being ramped up. What's your take on that?
Well, there's a gentleman that got killed over here in New York. I believe it was New York. He was 300 pounds. He was I believe he was selling cigarettes. Lucy cigarettes. Sometimes people in the ghettos do just to make ends meet and things of that nature. And the cops told him, stop doing that, or they were asking him questions, are you doing it? And then they got into some discussion. Eventually they decided to arrest him. They did an illegal move. It's a chokehold behind. You're actually not allowed legally, I think since the 90s, to actually choke somebody as a police officer. Is illegal because many people have died being choked out by police officers, not knowing their strength. A lot of these police officers, sometimes they hit the gym, they're big guys, they will choke somebody and they don't know their own strength. So they legalized, they made that an illegal move. So my understanding is all the officers, and especially the officer that was choking this gentleman out and dragging him to the floor while he was screaming, I can't breathe, I'm asthmatic. They had 5 or 6 officers on top of him, top of his chest, and anybody would tell you who suffered from asthma, especially for the brother, the brother was a large brother. Some pressure on your chest is very difficult. It's hard for you to breathe from regularly. It'll be 5 times as hard if you have 5 officers on top of you, kneeling their chest on you. So he died. It was an unfortunate event. Things of that nature. My understanding, they sued of course, a lawsuit is at hand. I believe they removed the police officer from duties, especially the one that was choking him out, because he actually had, I think, 3 other cases of police brutality within, one got resolved out, when they resolve it outside of court, or they plead or something, things of that nature. I think. Right.
That a police officer who already had previous assault charges.
Well, I believe he has one pending, and he has 2 priors of police brutality. So the guy who checked them out. So you know, it's but if you look at the media, you know, these things are happening, and they always has happened. You know, is if you look at all the police brutality that goes on, you know, the media can promote promote every night of the week somebody being killed by a police officer every single night, and things of that nature. So so these things have been happening for years within our community and things of that nature. So it's just part of the curses. It's just part of what is going on and things of that nature. And these things, of course, are they going to escalate? Because the Most High says that, you know, the latter days nations should you know, rise against nations. So these type of things are, you know, are going to happen. Absolutely.
Well, speaking of that and the law, we have the guest is here right now. We're gonna bring him in. We're gonna be talking about law as well, civil rights versus human rights, and so on, with a host of topics. Hopefully, we can get some clarity out and some edification via the Most High as well. All right. So, saying that, let's go over to our guest. Okay, he's here with us. Hello, shalom.
Yes, shalom. Good evening.
How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm well, man. I'm well. I'm Brother Gaja. With me is Elder Kabar, and we'll be the host. We'll be your host tonight. All right. And if you could do me a favor and just go ahead and introduce yourself, please, to the listeners.
Okay. My name is DR.MUSTAFA ANSARI. I'm a international lawyer, and I'm the Dean of the American Institute of Human Rights. And I have an expertise in various aspects of human rights. In fact, I teach a course for UN human rights defenders and U.S. human rights monitors.
Okay. Well, I think you're right. You're right on point then with some of the discussions that we here having in regards to what we see going on in America, police brutality, so on and so forth. I mean, you know, what's your understanding on that and what's going on and how can brothers and sisters who will come into contact with this broadcast, what can they do? What information do you have for them? You know, how to go about securing the right, if they have any, if they have any.
Well, yeah, we have a vast array of rights. First of all, let me address police brutality. Then I'll go into the array of rights that we have and how to address it. Number one, the issue of police brutality is a national issue, and we're looking at it not in a piecemeal fashion, just case by case. A case here in Atlanta, a case in Los Angeles, a case in Oakland. This is a national epidemic. This is a police war on the African American community that has been occurring for quite some time, and there has been, up to this date, no idea or no focus how to deal with it nationally. However, under international law, there is such a focus on how to deal with this nationally, because the issue of how to stop police brutality across the nation is a huge violation of our international human rights. The human right to life, the human right to be secure, the human right to be free from torture and degrading treatment. These are conventions that I just talked about. All of these are conventions and rights that we enjoy as human beings. As human beings, we have four different statuses, and we've only been taught about 3 of those statuses under civil rights. Under civil rights, the only statuses that we've been taught about is the status that we have as a member of a city or a state. or the federal government. Those are three statuses. That's civil rights. However, the concentric circle of rights that we have as human beings encompasses four different statuses. The fourth statuses is our international human rights. And under this rubric of international human rights are those conventions that protect us as international citizens, as international human beings, that supersede the Supreme Court of the United States, supersedes any Supreme Court of any different country, and these are human rights. These are superseding rights. Now, up under the superseding rights of human rights, the issue of police brutality has to be dealt with nationally. In other words, the case is a case against the United States as a whole, the police powers of the United States under the Constitution. The Constitution gives the United States police powers. Well, the police powers and the police powers of the United States has been abused by the various states and cities and federal governments. So when that happens, then what occurs is that the case arises against the United States because of acquiescence to these various states and how they've been abusing the citizens in those states. The United States has a positive duty to prevent any type of harm to our rights, our human rights. And so the case is a case against the United States and Eric Holder as the Attorney General. The Attorney General has the duty as the head police officer, the head police force, to protect the human rights of its citizens. So what we're looking at and what we're presently doing is preparing an action against the United States in one of the world courts, or maybe two of the world courts. We have a world court here in the Americas that control all other Supreme Courts and the countries on the American continent, called the Inter-American Court. And that Inter-American Court is in San Jose, Costa Rica. And that court is a superseding court. There's also the Human Rights Commission in Geneva, which we can bring the case to.
I'm sorry, Doctor. Did you said where you mentioned the country? Could you repeat the country, or was it a state, or was the country? I heard Eureka. I probably heard you wrong.
Well, Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. Okay.
Yes.
So this particular Supreme Court or Human Rights Court is in Costa Rica. In this side, okay. And is that the only one in the United States or in the Americas?
Well, there's three regions and our region is the Inter-American region.
Okay.
And the Inter-American Court in San Jose, Costa Rica, it covers the North American continent, Central America, and South American courts.
Okay.
So any kind of human rights violation that occurs in this jurisdiction is properly held before the court in San Jose, Costa Rica. Now there's a European court, and that's for Europe, and then there's the African court, and that's for African human rights violations.
Okay.
So there's three different regional courts in which cases can be brought in, and then there is the Human Rights Court, and then there's different courts that are set up by different conventions. The Convention on Torture and Degrading Treatment. That's another court. So there's a variety of human rights courts that this case can be brought in, and we're looking at which one would be the best suited for this action against the United States.
Okay, now, Doctor, can you give us briefly the history of the human rights courts? You know, how long has existed? What events took place to kind of, move the countries to kind of create this department, so to speak? Could you give us, I didn't, because I don't know too much about it. I heard about it, but I just don't know the history, and I'm pretty sure the listeners would like to kind of know that history.
Okay. Well, right after World War II in 1945, as a result of the Second World War, the nations of the world realized that there had to be a body of nations that could deal with any impending dangers of another world war or violations of human rights. So in 1945, Eleanor Roosevelt for the United States was one of the main pushers of the United Nations.
Okay.
And in 1945, the United Nations was born. However, in 1945, when the United Nations was born, most of Africa and most of the African Americans in the United States were in a very destitute and oppressive condition. So at that particular time, the main states that were in control of the court, in control of the United Nations, were the European nations, who were actually the oppressors for the most part, especially in concern of African people. Now, this changed in the 1960s and the 1950s as a result of our push towards civil rights and human rights in the United States. And in the 1960s, the African nations rose and started and shook off the European powers and became members of the United Nations. And so in the 1960s, there was a great transmission and transformation of the court from European hands to African hands. And a lot of people don't realize that, but out of the 193 nations of the world, most of the nations of the world that consist of the United Nations are African and Asian nations. So when we go into a court, such as the Inter-American Court or the Human Rights Court, most of the judges are either African or Asian or people of color. And this has to be known because a lot of people think that because of the Security Council makeup, which is mostly European nations, when we're trying to change that right now, that the United Nations is a controlled court and that's far from the truth. And especially in regards to actions like this, when we go into one of those courts for a violation of human rights, most of the judges will be African and Asian judges. Okay.
Now, and clearly World War II was a bad time in human history and things of that nature. But it's funny how it would take a World War II, and clearly the World War II is connected to the Jewish Holocaust. But I guess it didn't take the African Holocaust or the Native American Holocaust to inspire nations to make sure that nobody gets violated again. It would take some European group in Europe to get few people got violated or the human rights for this thing to happen. But since the conception of this institution, do you believe that people of color have benefit from this institution, or you believe that it has been they have benefit other than people of color? What's your, from a historical perspective? Do you think it's a good thing, and you think we have benefit from this institution?
Well, of course. The whole right to education, the right to be protected from torture, the right of the children, the right to for the elimination of racism and discrimination, the Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights to preserve our culture. All of these are extreme benefits that we have to this time not utilized. And the reason why is that in the United States, for example, there are only 3 to 4 international African-American international lawyers. I'm one of them. One of my colleagues is another one. We have another one who's teaching international law at one of the universities, and the dean of international lawyers is Dr. Khalid Al Mansour, who was the attorney for the Saud family in the OPEC case, and one of our mentors, and one of our advisors. And then there's Dr. Yusuf Incline, who just passed away, who was a professor emeritus and a contemporary of Malcolm X, who was also our mentor and advisor. So there is a need for more international lawyers, more understanding of international law, because we are truly international citizens. And I say this because of one of the topics that you asked me to talk about, which was political identity. Since we do not have and never did were engaged to identify ourselves after the Civil War, we do not have an identity as a juridical personality. In other words, we are not a congruous group, recognized congruous group as of yet. So sometimes it's difficult to bring challenges for our rights when we have not taken that first step. Now, in the Inter-American Court,
I'm sorry, Doc. I'm sorry, because I wanted to just to clarify what you just said. So you're saying because African Americans in general have not, because we lost our identity after the Civil War, after slavery, you're saying that that's been an obstacle,
yes,
winning cases within the civil rights. Within the human rights courts. Did I hear you right?
Within any court.
Within any court. Okay.
Yeah, in civil rights has been watered down to not recognize us as a group of people. Civil rights is a type of action that when you are individually damaged, you lose your job, you're discriminated against, you can bring a suit. There's such things as class actions, but we are a people. We are an unrecognized as to for people. Okay. And so it's difficult to obtain collective rights. All other countries and all other groups of people in the world have collective rights. We have collective rights, but they're unrecognized. But when you talk about the Japanese, the Jews, the Turks, these are groups of people who have collective rights, and we have collective rights too that we have to exert. And in order to exert that, we have to go through a process of recognition and of our own identity. Once we do that, then we become the 6th to 10th wealthiest entity on the planet, because we're 42 million strong.
Well, that is correct. We are, but the only problem, and maybe you could, chime in on what you feel that should how can we achieve those collective rights? If you lined up 10 African Americans in a room, and you ask the question, "What is your nationality?" or "What group you're from?" you probably would get 10 answers. Some would say I'm black.
That's the incorrect way to do that. That's the incorrect way to do that.
Right, of course. But what I'm saying,
the way to do that.
No, but what I'm saying,
just cut through the chase.
Go ahead.
The way to do that, in order to cut through all that confusion, is that, and how everyone else in the world does that, is that you create a ballot. And the ballot, Malcolm talked about the ballot on the bullet. The ballot is a question. Do you want to be recognized as an indigenous African citizen, yes or no? And so now you don't have all of those 10 different opinions. You have a yes or no answer. And so that's a ballot. And so what we have done over the years is that we have taken polls. We put our hands on the pulse of the African American people, and what we found is that over 77% of us want to be self-determining and independent people, free of American authority.
Well,
so
amen.
We understand that our consensus will, once we put a ballot in place, that we will be that independent, powerful people that we should become.
And I agree with you absolutely. But going back to what I was saying, I just wanted to just say that within the African American community, there has been subcultures that has been developed to the last century or so. Our church, for instance, we identify with the Hebrew culture and identity. We believe that the African American in America, along with those that were scattered in the diaspora of the Atlantic slave trade, were the Hebrews mentioned in the Bible. I have a friend who is a Moor. He identified himself as a Moorish American. I have other friends that identify as Muslims or Muslim Americans and things of that nature. So I think, if you mentioned, an indigenous African, not every African American identified himself as an indigenous African. I guess that was the question. Do you believe that is a problem? And how can we fix that problem? Or is there a name that could kind of typecast us, or we could all identify that the Moorish person or the Muslim and the Hebrew Israelite or the American Republican or Negro, whatever, there's so many titles and things of that nature we want to go by that we all could be satisfied. I think that's been one of our biggest problems as a nation, that we have adopted so many different philosophy or different ideology, and we can't come together because we can't agree on who we are pro-slavery, and things of that nature. So going back to that, with that problem, is there, until we figure that out, who we are as a people, can we still utilize these civil rights? Like, in other words, does it have to be if I identify myself as a Hebrew Israelite and somebody identifies as a Pan-African, can they individually say, well, I come from this particular group, I have a race? Like for us, for instance, our race is Hebrew Israelite. Our culture is the 5 books of Moses. That's where our principles and things of that nature. Our history is mentioned in the Bible. Our religion is in the Bible. This is our culture. This is our language. Can someone as an individual be protected, although there may be other groups or other people within my community that might not identify himself as a Hebrew? Or does it have to be a collective situation, like a ballot, like enough people signing a ballot to be recognized as Hebrew or Moorish or whatever that group wants to recognize? Would that trigger some form of rights that you wouldn't have before if the ballot did not exist? I hope you understand my question.
Yes, I do, and believe me, it's a minor problem. You think that it's a major problem, but it's a minor problem. The reason why it's a minor problem is because we're talking about the difference between cultural rights and national rights. There's a big difference between cultural rights and national rights. And in fact, the United States is made up of more even individual subdivisions and subcultures than that, but yet it is a nation. So what we're talking about is a national identity, not a cultural identity. When we talk about a national African indigenous identity, that means that all of the rainbows of cultures, the Black Indians, the Gula, the Hebrew Israelites, the Muslims, the Moors, all of them are part of our culture. All of them are microcosms of our same experience. And that's a national experience. And so the voters are vote for national identity in which all of these groups and subgroups fit into. So that's a minor problem.
Okay. Now, you mentioned ballot. What is the legal number for a nation or the Human Rights Committee or courts to recognize you as a nation? There has to be, like for instance, within the Native American culture, if you want to be recognized as a tribe or create a tribe or believe that you're part of this tribe, I think there has to be, either 15,000 or 1,500 ballots, and you will have to prove that your tribe existed historically. You guys have a culture, you guys have a history, and I believe if you have 1,500 ballot names that want to be recognized as a particular tribe, then the United States government will recognize you as that name. Is there something within the human rights courts that a organization, like for instance, like ourselves or any other organization that wants to be recognized, in regards from a balance perspective, that we have to turn in a particular number to be recognized, and if we are recognized, what are the rights that we will have after the fact? I hope you understand my question.
It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. What we're talking about, instead of a set number, we're talking about a percentage. There are tribes in the United States. I've seen one tribe in the United States that had one member. Then I looked at that tribe 10 years later, and I guess the gentleman had got married, and now there was 2 members.
Okay.
So what we're talking about is majority rule, consent, majority, democracy. So, for example, if there were 10 people in the Hebrew Israelite group, and 6 of them answered in the affirmative that we want to move toward recognition, then the vote carries. And let me just say this now: even though I'm a Muslim, it was us in Chicago who formed the legal brief for the Hebrew Israelites to return under the right of return to Israel. So we have a very big love for the Hebrew Israelites. I have Hebrew Israelites in my family, but this does, and I say this to say that our cultural background, what we believe in, it's assumed in the fact that we all have this common national experience. So, and this is how we look at it: that we that Hebrew Israelites, Moors, Christians, what have you, as long as they came out of our culture, as long as they are Afro descendants, then they have the right to become a member of our national group. And they should become a member of our national group because that makes us powerful. For example, if you if your tribe just obtained collective rights, you would have very limited power. However, if as a confederation, we have enormous power because we become between the 6th and 10th wealthiest entity in the world. So what we're looking at is a confederation or a framework, a development framework in which all of our groups can come in based upon their numerical number, just like in the United States, the cities and states, the states that have numbers, they have more votes. So under this democratic fabric, we can become much more powerful than we can individually.
What rights we would have in regards if we do come together under this umbrella of indigenous people? Because our biggest thing, it always has been that as a people, I think we have not have the ability to be self-determination. We have self-determination without any outside influence. And I'm not a racist in any way, but I truly believe that the best solution for people of color in America is to separate themselves now and establish their own self-determination, their own courts, their own government, their own hospitals, and things of that nature. So I always believe that if I could take a time machine and I could go back and during the time of pro-slavery, and I know there was some talk in post-slavery that the many Pan-African brothers and sisters that were saying we should go back to Africa, we should go back to our homeland and rebuild. But then the other thought process, like, no, we should stay here and assimilate to America. I would be one of those brothers that's like, no, we have to come back. We actually, not only should we come back, but the United States should pay every slave person or ex-slave the capital to not only go back, but to not only go back or either stay here in the United States, but have their own sovereign states and sovereign community, independent from any outside influence. So I believe that's always been that's been the problem. It's always been one of the things that we have not considered as a community, and we have not really taken seriously to separate ourselves and have been in a situation that we could govern ourselves. And that's been proven we could do that. We did that with Black Wall Street. We did that with that town Rosewood. We did that plenty of times, that people of color came together and created their own world, their own government. So I'm all for that and things of that nature. So you're saying, go ahead.
Let me tell you this. I think that a more correct reading of history says that we have always done that.
Yeah.
In fact, after the Civil War, there was a group of exodusters who left the South and created cities, over 60 some cities in Kansas and Oklahoma. Presently, we have 760 cities in the United States that African Americans are in the majority control in the city councils, and so we have done that. That's a natural result that we have, and we have the absolute right. In fact, the core principle of the United Nations, the core principle of human rights, is for the human to have free will. That comes out of our God-given rights. That's our natural right. That is our core. That's the core basis of human rights that runs through all the conventions. So we have the absolute right to self-determination under international law, and we have used that and have utilized that through the years. So what I think the more correct reading out of history was that we've always strove for self-determination. Do not be blemished in your thought by the books that are in the schools. Since we came out, ever since we jumped off of that slave ship, we ran. We were Maroons. We were Seminoles. We were runaways. Most African Americans ran away during the Civil War. During slavery.
That's correct.
An expression of self-determination.
That is correct. Historically they make it seem like Lincoln kind of freed the slave, but there were many slave revolts during the South. There were many, even certain areas that free slaves were able to hold back the whites for many years, and to by grabbing arms and things of that nature in self-defense. So absolutely, that's a history that it should be told, and it should be implored and respected, because it's a disrespect of our ancestors and things of that nature. One more question before I see the phone lines. I don't know how much time you have left. Would it be possible you'll be able to take some phone calls?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great. Also, before the two questions. Please tell us again. I know you have a Blog Talk Radio, and I know you do take you give some courses in regards. Could you maybe touch on that, and what if people want to know more about what you're doing and your struggle, where to reach you? Okay.
Well, we have a course for UN human rights defenders, and we have a presence on Facebook. And we have a website that we're developing now, but we have a course site on WizIQ. That's our social platform, and we teach lawyers, judges, prosecutors, activists, human rights organizations, departments of corrections, how to incorporate human rights into American law. And for our activists and organizers and lawyers and political science graduates, we're going into the colleges right now. We're going into African American studies to open up the brains of the African American studies departments and the political science departments to realize that the concentric circle, that they're missing 25% of the concentric circle of rights by not including human rights. This is called one of the courses is a course to train certified UN human rights defenders. And once we train you, we connect you with our international lawyers, and we connect you directly to the United Nations, and you'll have access to the United Nations.
Okay.
The other course that we train is human rights monitors, and human rights monitors, what they do is they monitor. They put the stethoscope on discrimination, police brutality, the courts, departments of corrections, political prisons. They observe, report, and they report back to the human rights defenders. And the human rights defenders, in turn, report to the United Nations, or either implement, negotiate, mediate resolutions with the United States, or either failing that, then we take them into the court through communications. So right now we are building up a force, and if we had 50 to 100, we're looking to have 50 to 100 human rights defenders trained in the next 8 months. And if we get that number, things will change in America. If we're looking at 500, and this is about 10 per state. If we have these protections of human rights defenders that can take the United States to task, and take the police force to task, and take the country to task when they harm us, and begin to implement the rights of self-determination and the right and our human rights, then America will change. And so this is the reason why we have constructed this program under the American Institute of Human Rights. And you can Google that. You can find us on Facebook. And we have a site that we're changing called humanrightstv.org, because we realize that education and the understanding of who we are as human beings is critical. So right now we are in the process of putting out a platform in which the African Americans can feed into to understanding human rights and be trained in order to protect them.
Okay. One more question. Okay, I have a practical question. I want to be considerate to the people that are listening, and I know that there's many people that want to call and ask questions. Going back to the human rights courts, is the human rights courts supersedes and is because I always grew up with the understanding that the Supreme Court of the land is the Supreme Court. Once they rule on something, that's it.
Yeah.
Things that nature. So what you're telling us, this is something that the human rights courts oversees and overrides the Supreme Court of America.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. The Supreme Court. There's a lot of Supreme Courts. Honduras has a Supreme Court. Bolivia has one. Mexico has a Supreme Court. Canada has a Supreme Court. Everybody has a Supreme Court. So, but the international court is a superseding court. So if those Supreme Courts make decisions that violate human rights or international conventions or treaties, then they go into the superseding court.
Can you give us an example of someone that was violated by either a police officer or an institution, government or private, and was sued or took the matter to the Supreme Court and lost that, and went to the to the human rights courts and won that? Is there an example that you could tell us briefly, a case that you was involved with, was one of your colleagues?
Well, there's many examples. There's many cases that get decided every day pursuant to all of these states in the Americas. We are presently looking at about 10 cases that deal with everything from our reparations.
Okay.
Because we're entirely, and the civil rights lawyers kind of dropped the ball on that and went into the wrong court. They went into an inferior court, which is the federal court.
Okay.
So we're looking to pick that up. We're looking to pick up the Tulsa massacre case, the eugenics case, political prisoners case, a case against the entertainment industry that controls all of our acts and entertainers and movies. there are a variety of different areas in which we are now geared up to take the United States to task in those various courts for those areas. Like I said, this is new for us as African Americans. There's only a very few African American international lawyers. So what we're doing now is training the defenders and the monitors to assist us by reporting, investigating, and going out and looking at these cases and giving us evidence and facts. And our human rights defenders, we're training them to assist us as co-counsels in various states in regions to address these issues. So now we are on the cusp of a human rights movement. And we've moved from civil rights to human rights. Just last 2 weeks ago, I was invited to a historically black community college at Park Atlanta University because of the ban on affirmative action and the federal restraining regulations that have reduced the enrollment at the HBCUs and have closed several HBCUs. Now, the HBCUs are a very conservative group that just several years ago would not have even dreamed of taking their communications to the international court. But because of the stonewall that we have gotten from a very racist and radical Supreme Court in banning affirmative action and in a very racist and radical Congress that has strangled us through federal regulations, and now we have 16 to 18 million African-American students and children at risk of being deprived of educational that is equal in opportunity to others, that now we are at the process of going into the international courts to rectify the educational disparity gap. So there's a change that's in the wind right now. There's a change that is occurring right now, despite what it looks like out on the outside, that's occurring presently to change our conditions under the conditions and the rules under the rubric of international human rights.
I got one more question, and I promise it'll be the last one. I know there's many people waiting on the line to call. Is the problem, you mentioned there was 3 human rights lawyers in the United States, correct?
3 African Americans who are trained as international human rights lawyers.
Okay, so there's more human rights lawyers, it's just only 3 African Americans?
That's correct.
Okay. Why you think that is it a situation that, going to school and becoming a lawyer, it takes a lot of money, and you have to, eventually support yourself and things of that nature. Is it a situation that the demand is not there because the supply is not there, or is it just...
It's just a matter of understanding. We all go to the Caucasian schools, and we all get indoctrinated into believing that the Supreme Court is, and like you said, the Supreme Court is the ultimate source, and then as I know, when I went to law school in California, by the way. When I went to law school there, everyone at that time wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. They didn't have a clue about human rights. So after you finish your 3 years of law school, you're done. You say, okay, I'm gonna hang up my shingle, I'm gonna go out and practice. And you don't realize that there is 25% of the law that you've left on the table, and this 25%, which is human rights, is the type of rights that are liberating rights that supersede civil rights that you should use. So it's a big misunderstanding in the law schools. And you have a very conservative people that are going to the law schools that really are not aggressive in understanding that we have these superseding rights.
someone that wants to, there was attacked by the powers that be, either by institution, police, or what have you, can they go directly to the human rights courts, or do they first have to go up the ranks, so to speak?
They have to allow the United States to they have to exhaust their remedies.
Okay.
So they would have to first allow the human rights courts are a superseding court. So in most superseding courts, since they're the court of last resort, there's a process of state courts or federal court that you go to, and once you finish with that and they've denied your claim, then your claim is ripe for the international court at that point.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right, so let's take some calls. I know there's some people eagerly waiting to ask you some questions. Okay, let me bring in, you're on the air, 352, Brother Cliff.
Shalom, brother Gotcha, Brother Gabar.
How we doing, brother?
Yourself?
Give me your name one more time. I don't know what they wrote here.
It's Brother Cleve.
Okay. Kawhi, shalom, brother. How we doing? You have a comment or question?
Comment. First, all praises to the Most High, Ahaya Ba'Hashem, Yeshaya Wa Rawchaa. To the guest, I guess straightforward, my background is in international business. I've been doing that for the last almost 2 decades. I deal in international logistics. So I guess you may be familiar with international maritime law. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I discovered when I got into business is that everything in the world is classified under the harmonized tariff system. All right? Everything has a 6-digit number. I don't care if it's a tree, anything that can be described has a 6-digit number. All right? And in the United States, they add 4 more digits to that classification for duties and things of that nature on imports. So 2 questions. One, what number or classification are you trying to? How does that work? What you're stating? How does that work? And can you give me just one direct case where this human rights international law has superseded a state or a government, and a judgment was passed, and then some action was taken based on that judgment?
That happens every day. I mean, every day. Now, I think what the confusion is in understanding and analysis is that there's 2 sides to international law, and I do both sides. There is the international trade side, in which you're talking about the QCEP numbers and that sort of thing, that the categorization of commodities and different things like that. That's one side of the law. I'm not talking about that side of the law. I'm talking human rights deals with with non-commodities. It deals with the person. It deals with the rights of the person and the individual. Now, both of these types of cases are cases that go into different international courts and different.
Hold on, brother. I don't mean to cut you, but I'm asking you to give me one. Just, you don't have to explain it to me. Just give me one so I could do the research on it and the other callers, so we can look at exactly what you're stating. Like, give us a case, a docket number, so we can examine.
If you ask any lawyer, about a case, I can give you U.S. versus Nicaragua. Try that one out. That is one of the cases that I teach in class about reservations. And this case dealt with the United States bombing the port of Managua. And they said that they had a right to do that under customary law because any time that Honduras and Nicaragua got into any problems, that the juntas in that area would call the United States in, and so the United States says, "Well, we have a right to bomb and protect that area." So U.S. versus Nicaragua, that's one of the famous cases. Then there's so many cases. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. We just have not utilized this area of law. But every nation, that's how they deal with each other. If there's a conflict that they can't resolve, they go into the court. So the United States and Nicaragua went into the Inter-American Court for a decision. If there's any time that there's a case, just like in any kind of domestic situation, the court of jurisdiction is the one that's addressed. So this happens every day. Every day. Just look at the docket of the Inter-American Court. Look at the docket of the European Human Rights Court. I mean, it's full. One of the cases that we have is the Bosnian genocide case. And that case is currently in The Hague. So the United States versus Karadzic, that's one of our cases, the Bosnian genocide case. And there's been like 60 judgments already against generals who were involved in that genocide. There's a Sierra Leone Charles Taylor case in the Blood Diamond case. There's a Bashir case in Sudan when he draped down on the Darfurians. There's huge numbers of cases.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Brother Cliff, for that question and that call. Let's continue. We have Brother Xavier. Brother Xavier, you're on the air. Oh, Deacon Xavier, how we doing, brother? How's everything?
Shalom. I got a few questions. I'll try to make it quick. My first question is, okay, when these courts were, they were built on the premise of the different countries that's established within the European world, right? No.
They were established according to regions. If they're in the American region, then they deal with all other countries in the American region. In the American regions, most of the countries are Afro-descendants. If they're in Europe, then that's the European region, and in Africa, there's the African region. So it depends on what regional court that you're going to.
Okay, and then when it was created, did Africans actually have a say-so on the principles of the court?
When the United Nations was first created, most of Africa was colonized in 1945.
Mm-hmm.
So, and in 1945, the only thing that we had in 1945 were several documents. The Declaration on Human Rights. That was the founding document. So there was just that one or two documents. Since then, the United Nations and still today and all law is an evolving piece of matter. Law is not a static. It's not just a stone static form carved in wood. Every day, different decisions and interpretations of law are being made. So the law is very dynamic. So since that time, there has been an explosion of conventions and declarations and resolutions that have formed the body of international law.
Well, I mean, when it was established, did Africans or so-called Africans have a say-so on the principles?
They were colonized, brothers. They were colonized. They didn't have a say-so even in their own country. They were under colonialization.
All right. And so now, it must have been recently when now there's actual African people who are partaking in these type of courts, such as yourself being a lawyer, right?
Well, since the 1960s. I'm an African-American lawyer, but there have been African lawyers who have been doing this since the 1960s. Mandela went into the United Nations. Yasser Arafat. We are just awakening. This is like the 1960s for us. As far as human rights is concerned, this is an awakening period for us. But the Africans, since the 1960s, have been going in the court.
Excuse me, hold up, brother Xavier. I'm sorry for screen, but something just was dropped just then. I wanted to ask. I'm listening here, and just if you could break this down for me, please, Dr. Ansari, right?
Yeah.
okay, with the courts of human rights, right? And going back to the last call that we had on just then, when you asked for a case of one actually being overturned, and you just mentioned Mandela just then, right? And you said that we've been practicing the court, being in the courts of human rights since the 60s. How comes that never benefit Mandela? Because he was only released in the 1990s. How did that go? Why didn't that benefit Mandela, being himself a lawyer, and also, you know, being that there were no Africans involved in the courts of human rights?
Well, there's power, there's military power, and there are violations. For example, anytime right now in Gaza, there are tremendous human rights violations occurring.
Right.
However, because of the fact that the United Nations does not have a standing army, they absorb that these cases and these facts are developed out of those observations of those violations. So, after the fact, I don't mean to cut you, but I'm gonna have to, because I'm losing you right now, and I want to keep it as simple as possible. In other words, what you're telling me that even though with you being a human rights lawyer, right, there's still factors or things that can happen that will not cause, you know, a ruling decision in your favor, even with the facts. Is that what I'm getting? No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Just break it back down for me, because you know, I don't want to go over into what's going on with Gaza right now and the violation of there. As I said before, you know, we talk about, you know, we talk about the 400-year Holocaust that we went through. You understand me? We talk about the Holocaust that the Native Americans went through, and we still, let's bring it back over here. We see another so-called fellow African, Nelson Mandela, who was in prison for X amount of years, and what I'm getting is that the human rights court had African people in it from the 1960s. So I'm saying, linking back to the last caller, when you were saying, give us an example of a decision when the normal courts make a ruling, and then it goes to the human rights court and it's overturned. Give us an example of somebody being accused of murder within the United States, sentenced to death, falsely accused, evidence tampered with, falsified, something like that you know, I can wrap my head around a file on something like that, where it went to the human rights court and they actually said, yo, listen, this brother did not, you know, with the evidence presented, you know, this brother did not commit this crime, we can't sentence him to death, we need to release him. A scenario like that, like for example, an injustice as we said with Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, you know, was in prison for however long, in a very brutal place. You know, let's bring it back around to that. I mean, I don't even want to touch what's going on in the Gaza right now. You with me? Just on keep it.
Well, no, I'm not with you, because human rights deals with every people. So, but I'll talk with the example. I'll talk with the example that you gave me. Okay, the death penalty case can be overturned in the human rights court, because that's a violation of the right to life.
Yeah, but I get
solitary confinement can be overturned in an international court.
Well, brother, I get that, I get that. I understand that it can be overturned. I'm saying, when, like, give me some scenarios of when it wasn't overturned,
this happens all the time. This is not something that's new. This is just new to you, but this is not something that's new.
And that's the thing, my brother. This is new to me right now. So I'm asking you. Hold up, let me finish. I'm asking you, the expert, please, to tell me, okay, why didn't the human rights help Nelson Mandela?
Number one, there are dynamics that happen in any court, and there's dynamics that happen. when the South African government at that particular time was a government that was taken into various chambers and of the United Nations, and rulings were taken against it, just like in Israel. There's rulings that are taken right now and have been taken against Israel. So what happens in the international affairs, that there's pressures put on the different states to conform to international law. There's pressures called like sanctions that occur. For example, just a couple of months ago in Libya and Iran, if you violate a treaty, if you violate some part of a convention, if you violate some human rights, compensation, sanctions, all of these are different things that can be done against a nation state. And so up until the time that Nelson Mandela was released, the international courts had put sanctions on South Africa. If you remember that there were sanctions and there was pressures put on South Africa's act.
Yeah, but this is my point. This is my point, right? This is what I'm getting at. It's like the human rights court, right? I know without a doubt must have put sanctions on Israel long before they started doing what they're doing right now in Gaza. They've been killing the people over there for God knows how long, right? But it still don't stop them from killing the people, regardless of what sanction has been put on. So this is where I'm getting at. Is it,
well, I think you're confusing. I think you're confusing the court for military power, and that's a big mistake.
No. So
there's a difference. There's a huge difference between a court, which only renders judgments, and a military force. Well, you have to distinguish that.
Well, no, but my brother, I understand that. But I'm saying then, right? Okay, then. What's the benefit then of me going to? What's the benefit right now, right?
What's the benefit?
Hold up, let me finish my question. What's the benefit of me learning human rights or becoming a human rights lawyer, right? Okay? Like yourself, when I look in America, I still see the police killing the people. Regardless of what human rights we come up with, I still see the police being militarized. You understand me? Like
no, I don't understand you. No, I don't understand you, brother.
All right,
I don't understand that logic. I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand the logic.
Let me break it back down again. What benefit can you have to black people as a nation of people, right? With human rights, if you can't stop the military or the police or the government institution from killing the people, what's the benefit of having a law?
You said that. You're saying these things. You're saying these things that there's no benefit. How can there not be a benefit for bringing a nation before a court and having a decision rendered for that court to stop, for that nation state to stop that action and to compensate those people? That happens if you went out in the street today and had a contract with someone, or someone hit you in the head in Los Angeles. Right. You would take that person to a court.
Yeah, but my brother,
you take that person to a court for compensation.
Follow me, my brother. Follow me.
You have the rule of law.
Follow me carefully. Follow me carefully, my brother. I'm saying, listen, I understand that. I understand the laws being put in place and what it means. But what I'm saying is that what's the benefit of that? Is even when you court,
what's the benefit of not having law, brother Chaos? What was the benefit of not having law? You're asking me about chaos. You're asking me about chaos. There's a benefit to having a rule of law. If you went out in the community
Brother Gaja, let me come in. Brother Gaja, let me come in, and Brother Dr. Mufasa. I guess let me just maybe, change the direction on the conversation, if it's all possible. But let me just maybe articulate maybe the different direction what Brother Gaja, I guess, is saying. I guess the question is, let's say we're in a scenario that, I am an African American kid going to school, and a police officer decides to take me, put a stick, a plunger of my rectum, humiliate me, piss on me, kick me in my face and leave me there to die, and you know, eventually he gets arrested and things of that nature, and you know, he gets acquitted for some technicality, and he goes into, you know, we go to the human rights situation. What power ultimately and I understand about order and law, and most countries supposed to respect all the laws and things of that nature. But I guess the question is, if what rights or what powers does the human rights courts have legally to if a country does not want to, help this kid, or they say they go to the courts, the police officer or the state official or the government person is found guilty, and they have to give some form of reparation to this victim. What power does the human rights courts have if that government decides to say, no, we're not going to do that, we disagree with you?
That occurs sometimes, and this is what we do when that occurs.
Okay.
And the brother who asked the question about the international trade side would understand this.
Okay.
If a country, we have a problem right now with some of the genocide judgments, because we enforce genocide judgments.
Yes.
So we have a genocide judgment against, say, Serbia or another country, or against Sierra Leone, and they don't want to pay up. They don't want to respect it. So what we do is the same thing we do in domestic law. If you had a case against someone and they didn't want to respect the judgment, they didn't want to pay the judgment, the thing that you do is you put liens on that country. You put liens on that property. You put claims, because you have a legal claim, you have a judgment, you have a legal right, you have a legal claim. And in the international law and in the law of all nations, in the UCC, that all nations have to respect the judgments of other nations. And all cities, in fact, all cities and states have to have a comity in the United States. If you get a judgment in California, you can have that enforced on property in another state. So this is what we do at that point if there's a recalcitrant state that doesn't want to pay up. Then we put a lien, and the liens can be all the way from the International Monetary Fund, because every country has an account in the World Bank and International Monetary Funds. Every country has a bond system. Every country has contracts with third system. For example,
let me ask this, my brother. With regards to Uganda, right, where the International Monetary Fund has put sanctions on Uganda because they have refused to change their laws regarding homosexuality, do you support that?
The IMF's ruling on, I'm against, just like with you, our books say that homosexuality is wrong, so why would I support that?
Well, the question, I think, and Brother Gadget, may I just come in, can a human rights court, could they force a country to scratch a law which they deem is discriminated against a population like homosexual? Is it okay? And the reason why we asking, because and the reason why I'm asking is this: is that when we look at the history of almost anything, when something is created, when something is built, like civil rights, like even the human rights and things of that nature, ultimately the people behind it is usually Europeans, or something that happened to Europeans.
No, I don't want to go down that road, because that's a hapless road.
Let me finish my statement. And what we notice is that, yes, sometimes, indirectly, we could benefit these things that has happened within the court system and things of that nature as African Americans or people of color. We could, I agree with you that we should work in the system, and understand to work within the system to try to defend ourselves. I'm 100% in agreement with you in things of that nature. But we also have to acknowledge how these things that we could use for our benefit could also be used against us. Like that, for an example, now they're legally they could go into Nigeria and different parts of Africa saying you are violating homosexuals. We're going to put sanction on you because you're violating these human rights. So I just wanted to kind of address that. And like I said, we have to use knowledge that everything is not good. It's necessary how you use it, and you got to use wisdom with every aspect. It's good and bad of everything. Will you agree to that?
Now, I appreciate that question. And the reason why is this, is that there are human rights lawyers that, in fact, most of the human rights lawyers are European. And then there's the African human rights lawyers, depending on what region you're in. We have very few African American human rights lawyers. However, we have a dynamic system in which we can change, in which we can shape and evolve. If we don't get involved in this shaping and involvement of laws and how they're applied, then you're right, we could become the victim of certain aspects of human rights law. And I agree with that.
Okay.
But the positive approach is to get involved, shape the laws, define, use the laws that support opposition, and become empowered.
Okay, absolutely. So let's continue taking some questions. Great point there, Doctor. We have Brother Daniel, 573. You on the air?
Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Shalom, you're coming in loud and clear.
Yeah, great show, fellas. Great show. I have a question and a comment for the guest. My comment is, as a so-called African American, as a black man, because earlier in the conversation y'all spoke of international judges and international law earlier in the conversation. As a black man outside of the continent of Africa, how are we supposed to trust in these international other countries? Because for years they've never done anything for us. You know what I'm saying? We went through the slavery, we went through the civil rights and all that, and that was always us. There was never an international presence, concern, or anything like that. Even when we still look at the Native Americans, they still on the reservation. If we say Roosevelt, like how you said earlier in the conversation, Roosevelt had a big hand in this international human rights violation stuff. If America had a hand in saying it was wrong for human rights, the first thing they should have did was fix the human rights within their own borders. But still to this day, this hasn't happened. So how is a black man like myself, because I understand I'm an Israelite, but as a black man, as you would categorize me, by your legal definition, how am I supposed to look to international refuge or help when history itself has proven to me that it doesn't exist? And that's, like I say, as a black man outside of Africa, because we can speak of Sierra Leone, we can speak of Bosnia, and we can speak of a lot of military action, but the black man of America has never had to fight the Air Force bombing them. The atrocities that we went through are a little bit more unique and different, just like the Native Americans. It's a little bit more unique and different than tanks bombing a country or a CIA program that done went crazy. You understand? So, like I say, as a black man, how am I supposed to trust governments who I know are trying to eradicate me?
Great question, brother. Go ahead, Doctor.
Okay. Well, you're not, with two things. One, the approach that you have is an incorrect approach, and in this is that you, as men, we never should be in a position where we have to ask someone else to help us. We have to help ourselves. This is self-determination. In other words, we have to take the realms. We have to become educated in the laws and the understanding and so that we can take the realms of self-determination. That's what self-determination means, is to be able to make these determinations for yourself. So we need to bring the cases, not ask for someone to outside to assist us in our condition. We need to come out of this condition ourselves and then make the case. No one will give us freedom. No one will give us freedom. Freedom is never given. Never, ever given. Freedom is always taken.
Okay. And Doctor, you could clearly see within the members of, our church and also supporters of the radio show that are calling in. And I do believe that we should work from the inside out. But I also understand our enemy.
No, I didn't say that. I did not say that, and I don't want that to be confused.
Meaning, I believe
from the outside in, not from the inside out. That's the problem.
Okay,
we have to work from the outside in.
Well, maybe I'm meaning we should get involved with these things that are available to us to better our existence. And I agree with you. Whether maybe I'm misquoting inside out in, what have you. But I believe that we should get involved. But what I'm saying is, can you also appreciate the reluctancy of people of color? Because we try different things sometimes, and we get hyped up of human rights. We're gonna do this, and sometimes ultimately, we don't get what we want, but everybody else is getting what they want. The gays are getting what they want. The minority whites, the majority, everybody else is a minority. Italians, Irish, midgets. Everybody else is getting some form of rights or benefit of these laws, but the African Americans usually don't get this. So can you see the reluctancy or the bitterness, or can you understand?
Well, I can see this. I can see our psychological damage and our trauma.
Yeah.
And any time that people that has been beaten down and oppressed as long as we have, we don't understand that we have the God-given right to fight, that we don't have the right to be free, that we don't have in us. It's been beaten out of us and drained out of us and oppressed out of us the right, not the right, but the ability within our own mind. Well, the only thing that we have to do is to conquer our own brain cells, and realize that that there shouldn't be any reluctancy about forcing and about moving to concrete our rights and our territories and control our schools and control our children, control our economics. These are God-given rights that we all have as people of God. We have these human rights.
Well, yes, I would agree with you that we are psychologically damaged, but I think we do have fight. Today's show is evident what you're doing, what we're doing, and we believe the best way to resolve this issue from our church perspective is separation. We believe that we are a culture, that we are refugees. And we deserve to be separate, and that we believe that we should be entitled to have our separate land, our separate culture. That's what we're working on behind the scene as a church, and that's what we bring you on. That's how. But sometimes you have people of color that may not be with our church, or may just be even within our own church. They may be reluctant because in the past, we always got the short end of the stick because that's the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. So I just want to not to be offended in our reluctancy of these questions, because we do have questions.
We have to overcome that.
Yeah, and not only that, we understand that separation is the best way for our people, the best solution. We for at least for this church, and sometimes we even struggle with ourselves how to best do that. What was the best?
Yeah.
What is the best for this? So that's why we bring you on and things of that nature, and we ask these questions. So absolutely. So let's continue with the callers, because I know you. We don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy man. We do appreciate for you to coming on and engaging with us. We have Brother Gabar.
Hey, shalom.
How we doing, brother?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. I actually have a comment and a question. The comment, well, on the beginning of the show, all praises to Ahaya B'Shem Yeshaya and the Holy Spirit for revealing this so-called irritated genie or irritated spirit. So first and foremost, I thank the Most High for that. Now my comment, a question to the brother, and thank you for coming on the show. This is well needed. My comment is that I believe you was talking about the Human Rights Court that spread it out abroad that represent each nation or something like that. Right. So why haven't, I believe we still, here, so-called Afro-Americans here in America, we're still qualified as 3/5 of a man. And I believe you were stating earlier, correct me if I'm wrong, you was quoting that most black folks can't come together because we got to be a certain amount of numbers to ought to be recognized in the Human Rights Court, as far as Afro-Americans here in America. Why haven't that been addressed in the Human Rights Courts that it's still on the books, from my understanding, that we're 3/5 of a man? First of all, if we're 3/5 of a man, we're not even considered human. So therefore, all our rights goes right out the window. So my question to you is, in a nutshell, is have that been brought up in the Human Rights Court, or as the slaves here in America?
Well, that's a myth. That was that 3/5 clause in the United States Constitution. That's what white folks say. We can't believe, and we can't, it's illegal. A lot of things that they say is illegal. The one-drop rule. If you have one drop African blood, then you're not an indigenous person. All this is made-up stuff. There's a lot of made-up monkey junk that the Europeans have done that is illegal. That 3/5 clause, that was a tax clause that for the slaveholders that they could only count 3/5 of the slaves because that's for tax purposes. So that's a myth. That doesn't have anything to do with our human rights, our human existence. Those are things that the Caucasian just makes up.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
brother. Go ahead.
How about as far as reparations? Have that been brought up in a human rights court as far as what happened to us during the slavery time? Not
yet. It's being brought up right now, but no, the civil rights attorneys took that the wrong way and went into the inferior court of the defendant. And we talked to them, and I know I jumped up and down on desks almost to tell them, do not file this in the federal court. The federal court is a defendant. How are you going to take a case against a country into their own courts? These are the ones who made the fugitive slave laws. And the Constitution. How about the human rights courts I'm speaking of? The human rights courts that you say that trumps, the human rights courts, the ones you say that trumps all the other courts, as long as the military is not involved. That's my understanding what you're saying. If the military is involved, we pretty much got action. Have any international nations or nations out there, have they put a lien on America for the violation of human rights for what happened to us back during slavery time and what's happened to us today? As a nation of people, not as individuals, speaking on a nationwide, because Japan, that went through the courts and they got their reparations real fast. And so on and so forth, but it's been on a long time. He actually didn't go to the court. It was a settlement. In fact, this is the first, our case that we are going to bring for reparative measures, and we call it reparative measures because they have their duty under international law to rehabilitate, repair, compensate us for all the harms that they did to us during those years of slavery and excluding us from the market during Jim Crow discrimination. So those have not been cases; those have been settlements. But you're right. The case will be brought. It's an international case because the case is brought against the United States. So it's an international case, and this is what we try to impart to the civil rights lawyers. This is not a national case. This is an international lawsuit. This is an international tort. That's what reparations is. So yes, that case is being formed. And as I explained earlier, there are very few of us that are educated at this level. There's only 3 of us. There's only 3 of us in the entire world that are African American international lawyers who can bring a case like this and understand all the parameters of the law.
Okay, sir. So are you saying that just because we're not represented as Afro-Americans in human rights court, that means justice don't prevail? I mean, I believe everybody around the world knows our history. What happened to us? Just righteousness is righteousness. If the court is based on how many people you can bring to represent us, because I can grab a couple of thousand brothers right now, and if you need that to represent us, but on a legal basis, support. And also, you mentioned about a settlement. You mentioned about a settlement. You said they settled out of court. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, the Japanese settlement and the Jewish settlement were out of for the Holocaust and for the Japanese who were interned in the United States. Those were settlements. Those were the result of a settlement. Those were not court cases.
But Doctor, my understanding, although they were settled, it went through the courts, correct? The courts decided to settle, or what was the threat? I guess what was the argument for the settlement? Was it human rights violation, and they decided not to go to court and to settle? Was the
exactly.
Although they didn't went to court, they said you violated my human rights, and these rights were created. These courts was created in World War II or after World War II, and they used those principles to get the settlement. Correct? Would that be a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment. That's called the Nuremberg Principles.
Okay, and then so the question would, and thanks a lot, Brother Gabar from California, for this question. I guess the question is that, so what's taking so long for African Americans to get that settlement? I guess that's the question.
We do not have the intelligentsia. We do not have the intelligentsia. And we do not have the psychological wherewithal as of yet. I mean, we do have it, and it's forming. We're at the precipice of it. These things are processes. We were in a complete state of destitution as far as our human identity is concerned. Many of us right now, if you ask us who we are, and you started to show off with that, we would give you so many ranges of who we are and what we do. This is an understanding of the slave. I mean, we came from a slave background in which the Caucasian took everything out of us that he could as far as our human identity. So now we are in the process of waking up out of that destitute state to be able to stand up and not ask for someone to do something that we should do for ourselves. So this is the reason why we're training and we're pursuing these cases for our own self, because we believe, as you believe, that we have the absolute right to self-determination, to have our own separate structures. Right.
Now, Doctor, you mean, we need to wake up, and then once we woke up, what we need to do, that more African Americans, indigenous people have to file these lawsuits, or do we have to, what does that mean in regards to...
We have to form a nation. We have to form a Confederate nation.
Okay.
We need a plebiscite. And we're working on a plebiscite right now in which all of our Confederate groups would form a nation. We need a nation.
I see. Now, is that nation, what does that mean? You form a nation, then do what exactly? We will do what? A
nation can go into, as the juridical standing, to go in any court of the world and bring its case.
Okay.
So
now,
that's the basic.
How much percentage of within the African American community, indigenous people, will have to be within the nation? That's what I think. I don't know the numbers. I think it's 12 million, 15 million.
51%.
Okay, so 51% of people of color in America will have to join this nation. We have to join this nation. So we're talking about what we talking about? How many African Americans are in America? 12 million? It's probably more.
42 million.
42 million. Okay, so it will have to be 22 or 23 million African Americans.
Not necessarily.
No? Okay.
No,
and why not?
I see what your percentage is. Usually in votes, everybody doesn't vote. For example, in the last couple of elections, only about 30% or 40% of the population vote.
Okay.
I remember Reagan ran for office one time. He said he had a mandate. Only 26% of the entire population voted. Okay. So what we're talking about is the majority of the voting electorate.
So explain to me, like I'm a 2-year-old, what that means exactly. How many people will have to vote, meaning the majority within communities? Are you saying like similar to like if in New York, I don't know the percentage of African Americans in New York, there will have to be
51%. 51%. There has to be majority rule. This is a majority rule analysis.
So it's similar to like an election. It's similar to an election. So
it is an election.
Right. So it's 51% of African Americans in New York, 51% of African Americans in California, 51% in Atlanta, so forth will have to vote for this. And we win. Okay. Understood. Okay. And if they will vote and what would be the if you win, if you get everything you want in regards of what you're moving, what kind of world are you looking for? What will happen exactly if we actually have this goes through?
I can give you the steps. Now, what would happen? That's up to, and you'll see where I'm going in this, and you'll see how it's a democratic process.
Okay.
Once we have a plebiscite vote and say we win, and it looks like we will win because our numbers that we calculated is about 77% will vote yes.
Okay.
So say we win. Okay. What's the next step? Well, the next step is after you win, we have to form a national assembly, a constitutional body.
Okay.
That's the second step. So elective. So from every state there will be drawn 2 or 3 or 4, depending on the size of the state and the number of people there, representatives of that people from that state, and they will come to it and they will assemble.
Okay.
Once they assemble, then it's up to that body to carve out a constitution, just like it was done in the United States, just like it's done all over the world.
Okay. At
that point, there's a constitution. After the constitution is formed, when the constitution is formed, the courts are set up, all the institutional structures are set up, the tax structure is set up, everything is set up. That's it. It's over with. We're a nation.
We're a nation. Okay. And then what would happen? What exactly that means that we get? What rights will we have? Does America will have to turn in some money? What exactly that means? We're a nation.
That means that at that point that we have control over $1 trillion in economy, because that's what flows to us at this particular time. So that in that Constitution, the scriveners of that Constitution will make those institutional decisions. Will make those congressional, that assembly decisions on what we're going to do with our money. Secondly, every human being has.
Meaning, and I'm sorry, doctor. Our money, meaning our currency that we created ourselves, or the money that we are now currently, the U.S. dollar. What did that? You know.
It depends. It depends on our assembly. If our assembly wants to create a different currency, they have the sovereign right to do that, because an assembly, once we become, after the vote, we are a sovereign.
Okay.
So a sovereign can make any rules that it wants to make.
Okay.
It's sovereign.
Okay. So we will have the right to either make our own money from our own, sovereign nation. Now, doctor, let me ask you one other question. Theoretically, within the African American community in the United States, and within those communities, there are subcommittees, right? You have subcommunities, right? You got Moors, you got Muslims, you got Israelites, right?
Yep.
Let's say all the Israelites come together, or 51% of the Israelite community within the African community vote to be recognized as a nation, would that be suffice? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
If we want to we're not African American. We are separate from the Moors. We're not them. We're Israelites. And here's the petition. There's a petition. To make it recognized, and in that time we will have more rights and things of that nature too. Okay,
yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's called a confederation. That's a different type of nation. That's a confederation.
Okay.
Okay. And that's definitely a choice that the assembly, when they assemble after the vote, they would make those decisions.
Okay.
And so yeah.
Okay. So let's continue. We wind down. Let's grab these phone calls. I know they're eagerly waiting. So we have Brother Kayal has a question. Hello. You're on the air.
How you doing? It's Brother Cal.
Hey, Brother Cal. How we doing, brother? Comment or question?
I got a question. How you doing, Elder Gabar?
Good.
The question I had, it kind of goes back to you talking about you guys talking about separation for our people, and I guess the right to be able to self-govern. And it kind of brought to mind that scripture, and I guess you can help elaborate the question to the doctor for me. And it says, "Be as pilgrims on the earth." So, is there a way to legally separate yourself from governments of the earth that you feel don't have your best interest to kind of stand? I guess stand as your own, like self-govern. You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, I guess the question, if the Bible says we should be pilgrims on the earth, then this conversation this contradicts the scriptures. I guess this conversation about sovereign situation, correct? That's what you're referring to?
I guess it would contradict it, but I guess I was more asking. This is my question. What would be the steps to do that, and what are the consequences, if any, of separating yourself essentially from the world? If you feel like the world just hasn't been in your people's best interest, you know what I'm saying?
What will be the consequences? I guess that's in regards of separating, and we become a sovereign nation. That's the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Mufasa, maybe you can answer that. Is there any negativity reduced?
It's Mustafa.
Mustafa,
and,
I'm sorry. My apologies.
No problem. This is what nations do. This is what people do who are all over the world. I mean, we are different entities. So there are 191 different states that have chosen to be a nation state and separate state. And then there's over 3,000 or 30,000 different indigenous tribes in the world, and each one of these tribes have decided to have its own distinct power. This is nothing new. The consequences is that you have your self-determination.
Okay.
Thank you, Brother Cal. I guess the consequences is all on you. You can't run back to anybody. You have to take care of it. Now, Doctor, what rights, and I'm going to go over some rights and some things, and maybe you could tell me would we have these rights or not and things of that nature. Will we have the right to create our own police and our own court system?
Of course.
Will we have the right, and we don't advocate this as a church, to commit, if we have a court system, can we do capital crime? Can we punish capital crime with death? Can we legally, kill another human being?
Yes. You're sovereign.
Okay.
So you have the power. You have the power. The only thing that you cannot do is violate the human rights of the human dignity of the individual.
Right.
Because then you come up under the superseding umbrella of human rights. But as a nation, you have the sovereign right to create all different types of law. That's your right.
And I got two questions going back to what you were saying about the 3/5 of a man and things like that. As you know, these things, this goes on within the African American community, Latino community. We hear these things, we don't really look into it in much depth, and it becomes a thing. But legally, but legally, what was the legal terms to on the books to enslave another man, and not only enslave him, but also enslave his children and be as a property? I'm pretty sure there was something in the books to allow people to do that, or the United States never really bothered to put anything in the books in regards of that. What is your understanding as a lawyer legally, what did the United States had on paper to justify slavery?
Nothing. I mean, when I say nothing, I'm being a little bit facetious. The reason why I'm being facetious is because anybody can write anything.
Right.
And that's what they did. However, what you write as a scrivener, it could be legal or illegal. So the laws of enslavement of a human being is illegal. It's been illegal.
I agree with you. I agree with you in things of that nature. But was there something in the courts that kind of justified slavery in general, or was it something targeted for African Americans to justify the humane treating? Because we all hear about there were white slaves. The Irish came here and things of that nature. Clearly, they didn't got mistreated the way we did. But was there something in the paper that they put illegally? We all know that that justified mistreating African Americans in the way that they mistreated them. Was there something that they put in them?
Of course.
Okay, and can you elaborate on that if you don't mind?
There in the late 1600s, when slaves and indentured servants first came in, there was different types of. There was Caucasians that were slaves and different things like that. In the late 1600s, there was a decision. I believe it was in Boston, Massachusetts, when there was a runaway, and there was an African man who ran away, and there was an indentured servant that ran away. And the punishments was different, and that was the first case that established that the difference between an African and a white slave or indentured servant was the fact that the African slave, and this is the rule that they extrapolated on, they made a rule that the African was a slave in perpetuity and for life. And that rule in 1670 became adopted by the different states. And so up until the 1860s, that was the rule that the African, unless there were certain exceptions of manumission and different things like that, would be a slave for life.
Was it? I know that usually there's propaganda that they utilize to try to justify their behavior. What was the propaganda during the daytime to justify that? Was it scientifically, biblically,
no, it was
socially?
It was they extrapolated from the Bible and from the Torah, and I hate to say that, but it's true. They came out of the Ham doctrine. It had this thing. And and I'm
we're familiar with that script.
Good,
yeah, we're familiar. Then which the Bible.
That was the so-called legal basis of it.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's continue grabbing these phone calls. I'm learning a lot today, which is a blessing. We have Brother Tony. You're on the air, Brother Tony.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Thank you for bringing me on. Want to say shalom to the elders and want to. Shalom, brother. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes. Comment or question, brother. How we doing?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was talking. I guess you couldn't hear me. I just wanted to thank the guests for being answering all of our questions.
Thank you.
You're coming a little disruptive. Go ahead, ask your question. We could hear you. I could hear you now. Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, yeah, I took it off. It was my headphones.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, can you give us the legal definition of a refugee? And the second part of the question is there a way for us blacks as a nation to come together and maybe be classified under a refugee status in reference to find and participate in nations that would allow us to leave the country and find refuge somewhere? I'm wondering if that's a viable question.
Well, yeah, it's an unusual question, but it's a viable question. Refugee is someone who has, for one reason or another, has been driven out of its place of abode. So it's possible for the argument to be made that you can go to a third country for refuge because the country of your abode is so hostile that it has driven you out. It's an argument that's made every day on the reverse of people coming into the United States, fleeing countries that are hostile and damaging to them. So yes, it's a viable question. It's an unusual one, but yes.
And going back to just piggyback what the brother was saying, and thank you, Brother Tony, for that question. Brother Antonio, I'm sorry. Is also refugee is a very dangerous perspective, because I remember when they were using that terminology with the people that were with the levee broke. What is that?
That's correct. That's correct.
You know, they were using that.
Yes.
Does it remove your certain rights when you are considered as a refugee? Is that some danger?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It does. And it's totally incorrect, because we are the most, and get this, and this is going to be very important, it's going to be a very unusual perspective, because you never heard it before, but we are the most indigenous people in the Americas. So we are definitely not refugees. We founded the Americas. The first human presence in the Americas was African. We have the skeletal remains. We have the DNA evidence. The people that are called Indians are not really Indians. They're not a race. They are a mixture of African and Asian people. And the African superseded the Asian by thousands and thousands of years. So before anybody was in South America, Central America, North America, the African was here. So that was our first population wave. The Asian was the second population wave, and they were African-centered out of Taiwan. That's what the DNA said. So the people in South America and Central America and North America all were very, very dark until the complications of the transatlantic slave trade. People called Indians are actually Africans. They're African, they're mostly African-Asian mixtures. So all of those tribes, the Cherokee and the Narragansett and the Hopi and all of those tribes were African-centered tribes who were transmuted and transformed through Caucasian foods like the one-drop rule and the Dawes Act and different things like that. We are the most. We have Aboriginal rights to the American soil, and we have what we call top-down rights to the American soil. Top-down rights are the rights that attached to us through the transatlantic slave trade, which was our fourth population wave.
Well, yeah, and let me also add to you were saying, Doctor. You know, we're going with the dimension about the finding of the DNA. I'm believing that DNA is being used today as a political weapon to try to deter certain information or certain or try to help other people. Let me give you an example. As you know, are you familiar with the Igbo tribe in Africa?
Yes.
Okay, and you know they've been trying to be recognized as Jews and have the same right of return as the European Israelis, and their DNA has been proven that they have Shemitic DNA and things of that nature, and I think the people from the Lombard and things of that nature. Now, when this happened, this clearly rocked the world. It clearly shifted the direction, things of that nature. Now, going back to the Native Americans, I don't know if you know. Let me go back to the Igbos, and that they have done other DNA and with other indigenous culture, like the culture in Australia, in New Guinea, and now the finding is inconclusive. me personally believe that I question DNA, not the science, but I question the people that are controlling the science, because DNA has been given this this godlike, authority that whatever it says it is, and things of that nature. So I'd be very careful with the DNA, with the because we had done research also with the Native Americans in the DNA that I could directly to Mr. Jenkins, who wrote a book called the 10 Lost Tribes, and he did some DNA. He went to some professors, and they're saying, well, the DNA that we came up with links the Native American back to and I'm quoting the doctor, back to Palestine. So sometimes DNA is used as a political weapon to deviate, and I think this whole thing with the Jewish situation in Israel, when you have different people been having the Hebrew culture before the Europeans, the conversion, and they are now coming up with the historical understanding, also the DNA. Now the DNA is inconclusive. Now it's iffy. Now it's we need more tests. We can't know for sure. So I think with the DNA we also have to remember who politically, what they're trying to prove, and what they're trying to establish, and sometimes political pressure sometimes may play with those numbers, if you will. So I just want to just add that as well. But let me go back to let me just continue these phone calls, Brother James. We're on the air.
I'm gonna have to leave in about 4 minutes.
Okay, brother. So let's have this. This is gonna be the last question, and then you could we could take it from there. Brother James, you're on the air.
Yes, shalom. I'd like to say shalom to all the brothers. Shalom to the guests as well. I actually have a question, and basically I want to know if he's familiar with the case of a brother named Mumia Abu Jamal.
Yes.
Yes. So, I mean, and this is kind of in relation to, I think, what Elder Rawchaa was trying to get at with, has there ever been any, attempt to bring that into the human rights courts in any way?
No, not that I know of. Not that I know of, but let me tell you this, that the cases of all the political prisoners, we are forming a clinic just for that. So that we can remove Mumia, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, Mutulu Shakur, all of those political prisoners, Rochelle McGee, out of, number one, solitary confinement, 2, into medical facilities to treat them for their debilitating issues that is a result of that solitary confinement, and 3, to free them and compensate them. So, yes, we're looking at that case.
Okay, all right, yeah, because, I mean, that's something that I actually was just watching I was familiar with the case also. I mean, I live in the state of Pennsylvania myself, and I'm familiar with it, but I was watching the documentary on it, and, they're basically, it's out there that these officers, fabricated a lot of evidence and fabricated basically the whole entire case, and, it's just been going on since, I believe he was incarcerated since, the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. And it's 2014, and nothing's been going on. And that's also another caller was saying, how are we supposed to feel comfortable, thinking that something can come of this when, we have a case like that is from our homeland and nothing's been going on about it,
The case hasn't been brought because we had Asian lawyers who had just not the case.
Okay. Well, that was the last call. I know, I apologize for those that were waiting to come in and ask their questions. So, Dr. Ansari. Thank you for coming. Please tell us again.
My pleasure.
Yeah, please tell us again. I know you have a Blog Talk Radio. Can you please tell us the dates and time that you're on, and any other information that anybody would like to reach and know more about your movement?
Well, we don't have a Blog Talk Radio, but we do have a presence on Facebook right now. Website humanrightstv.org. We're developing a platform. So the best way to contact us right now is through the American Institute of Human Rights. That's our Human Rights Institute. We're located in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have a presence on Facebook right now and a platform for our school that can also be accessed through our Facebook page.
And the school, is it online or this is physically you have to be in Atlanta?
It's online.
Okay. And before you leave, Doctor, do you have anybody outside of Atlanta representing your cause, like in New York City or any representatives, or maybe if they would like to come in and do a presentation, either in a church or in a town hall meeting, so to speak? Do you have anybody outside of Atlanta representing your?
Yes, we do. Yes, but they haven't finished their training yet. We do have a representative in New York. And several states, about 8.
I'm sorry, Doctor. You're breaking up a little bit. Say again?
Yeah, I'm going to get very low. I've been traveling on the cell phone. Yeah, we do have we do have human rights defenders in training. They are not out of training yet, and one of them is in New York. Okay,
so please do come back if you have any new developments into your movement. I'm gonna definitely maybe reach out to and maybe talk to you offline and go over some things that we're doing behind the scenes and how we can definitely network and
more
things
power
like that.
to you. More power to you. W Hebrew Israelite.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon. God bless.
God bless.
Okay. Then that was Dr. Mustafa Ansari. You could check him out online. You could just Google his name and all his information. He has a page on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing from him again. Okay, I know there were some people that wanted to call in. I want to not deprive you of your opportunity to speak and speak your mind. So let's continue grabbing these phone calls. I have Sister Carol. Sister Carol, you're on the air.
Hi, Elder. Goodbye.
How are we doing, Sister?
Okay. I wanted to ask the brother what was really and truly the end game, because a sovereign state, I'm very confused at that, and he's saying we'd have the control of $1 trillion. Is he referring to the money that we actually make? And because I wasn't sure about some of the things he was saying, it just wasn't that clear to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I want to know, because no matter what, we can't, our leaders or whoever we put in these little subcommittees and things, then we have to believe that they're going to structure things correctly. And what would stop the United States from coming in and doing exactly what they did to Iraq, talking about regime change? I can't see any justice in this country for us. I mean, we know that the scripture says that no man will redeem us. Our freedom is not coming that way.
Yeah.
So if there was anything that I think that we as a people should try to get, it would be a settlement where we actually had money funneled to us, because we can't have people telling us, like, I'll give you an example. When they were talking about reparations, Jesse Jackson jumped up and said he would be in charge of the fund and he and his group would determine, allocation. And that's just more criminals on top of us. And
that's the biggest problem. I think, it's going back to the whole nation issue. What nation we're going to be identified, who is our leaders, who's going to be representing us. Putting some Negroes in a room and the Jesse Jacksons and the, everybody will be, who's going to be our leaders. And it goes back into the importance of identity as a people. And this goes back to the scripture that we will lose that identity, because
absolutely,
if every African American, Latino, indigenous people would identify as a Hebrew, or at least within the Hebrew community, we could narrow down who's going to represent us. Yeah, so we know for sure it's going to be we could maybe look at the leaders of every church or every organization they could maybe form a committee and they could vote. It kind of narrowed this down from that perspective. And I'm saying I'm not advocating that that's the direction we should go. But what I'm saying, if we will go with that direction, at least for us knowing who we are, narrow this down who we're going to be owed for. So I would not go to Jesse Jackson because I don't consider him a Hebrew. He doesn't consider himself.
I don't know what he is.
Yeah. So but go ahead, sister.
A lot of blacks will jump up and say I'm gay before I'm black and crazy stuff like that. Yeah. And it'll be impossible to come to a decision. And then when we look at other countries that so-called quote unquote went to the courts, South Africa had to sit there and wait for Ronald Reagan to finally say, okay, I'm going to vote for sanctions. Those people went through a nightmare, and they're still going through a nightmare. I pulled up at the restaurant one day, and I'm not sure if it's Cape Town or Johannesburg, but I said to the guy, do you live there? And he said, black people don't live there. And I'm like, oh, in this day and age, you mean to tell me they still can't live there? So all I'm trying to say is I think that world court stuff is just pie in the sky. I really do. I don't think this is even going to happen. This is just a lot of talk.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's just another way that if we get anything, they'll simply turn to us and say, "Okay, we settled that issue. We don't want to hear from you again." When money, like Israel, they're getting money every year from us. They're getting money from Germany still. Germany can't even dare speak against the Holocaust. Anyone in that country, they'll go to jail. This is how much protection they've been given. But I don't expect that for us.
Yeah, and going back to, that's why I asked the origin of the World Court. What was the origin? World War II. What happened in World War II? So you mean to tell me you needed to wait for 6 so-called million Jewish people to die, and that's a exaggerated number, to say we have to create a world court, and all the atrocities that has been happening on before World War II in Africa, when Italy was trying to take over Ethiopia, and all the atrocities that happened, all the criminal acts that was going on in Africa, that did not inspire for the UN to create this world court. They had to wait for 6 million people, Europeans, to die, and some Japanese to get killed. To say, you know what, we should create something to stop this from happening again, but not the 100 million Negroes that died enslaved, over the 80 million plus in of the Native American people. But go ahead, Brother Gaja.
Look, brother, listen, check this, right? Listen, couple of things not sitting right with me, yeah. With this whole conversation is that, and it pretty much is this. From the question was asked, okay, give us one example of a case of injustice in a normal court where the human rights courts have intervened, right, and overturned the judgment and prevail justice for a person, a family, or whatever the case might be. That question was asked over 2 hours ago. We still not received any answer as to any individual cases.
Yeah.
As for we need to form a nation, right?
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey did that in the 1930s.
Sure did.
Marcus Garvey made a nation within the United States called the UNIA. Okay? So, what he's saying about we coming into these things being new, this is not new. This is old things. You understand me? Now, okay then, if you advocating human rights, right, for people, why aren't you dealing with the human rights violation that's going on within the borders of the country that you are in now? How can you then tell me about international coming together when you're not even dealing with the America as more blacks incarcerated than anywhere on the planet? So, hold up. Whose rights are you really dealing with? But let me tell you what's going on with these Negroes, eh? It's a money thing. going on right now with this reparation conversation. Everybody looking at payout. It's a money thing. You with me? It's like in a couple of weeks in London, you're going to have a next set of Negroes down there saying that they want reparation. You understand me? Now, how can we say, as African people, we want reparations when you look at a bill of sale, there's no such thing as an African on it. Follow me carefully. Where is the evidence that African people went into bondage? It don't exist. It's an illusion. You with me? Why? Because the people them lack, don't know who they are. You understand me? Psalms 83. They have this. The name of Israel right now is not in remembrance. They don't know it. So can these people come now and ask reparation? And that's why you're getting these pimps. Sorry, these black leaders. Excuse me. Right, coming right now with this stupid argument. Now, all right then. Okay, if there's only 3 African Americans, right, civil and human rights lawyer, yeah, in the world, shouldn't that be an issue within itself? It's like this, Elder Gabar. If the gathering of Christ Church was comprised of Elder Rawchaa, Elder Lawya, and Elder Gabar only, would that not be a problem? Would that not be a problem?
Yeah, we're going to have to look at our doctrine. So we're doing something wrong.
Would that not be a... This is the thing. So, yo, I'm here sat down and listen, yo. I don't want knock the brother's efforts or what the brother is doing, but enough of the thing never add up. It sounded to me like when when back in the day when we used to be in college and university, when you'd have a nice guy that come around and gave you a pep talk. You get me? Make you feel good. Make you feel good. Okay then. We must then get this is the argument. We must stop asking for things from other people and go out there and get it. Okay, who are we gonna get this money from in reparations? So we don't have it. Who are we gonna get it from? Now listen, and I've had this conversation here on radio here in the UK that how can you expect to get reparations, right, when the people who you're looking to get it from, one, still hasn't admitted that they have done something wrong. How are you gonna get that? Not only that, if one group, like for example, if the United Kingdom and all the ministers and all of them people who used to own slaves and were compensated at the abolition of slavery, if the UK goes ahead and say, okay then, we were wrong, right? What ramifications would that have on every other nation on the earth that have enslaved black people, quote unquote? That means everybody would have to pay back. It's not gonna happen. Not in this lifetime. You with me?
Yeah. I mean, not only America will have to pay reparation. We're talking about Africa,
everybody,
India, Spain, British, England, the Portuguese.
The 10 have to pay back.
Yeah, I mean,
the Persians have to pay back. The Medes have to pay back.
Yeah, they have to
pay back. Everybody have to pay back. So what are you talking about? You understand me? Everybody has to pay. Anyway,
I'm with you. I'm with you, Benjamin. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. Sister Kara, any last words?
That's all. Brother God is killing me. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, sister. Okay. Sister Shirley, you're on the air. Sister Shirley.
Hello.
Hello,
Can you hear me?
How we doing?
Oh, all praises, yeah. I really wanted to ask him a question because, I find it, I want to look at the other side of this international court in the sense that, okay, you've got the European Jews out there that benefited from the European court, I mean the international court. However, it was the law of the land out there for them to be exterminated or put out or whatever it was that Hitler had going on. That was the law of the land. Mm-hmm. So, you know, for the same reason that they say it didn't benefit us in this country because slavery was the law of the land. But on the reverse side of that is, okay, so if the World Court is against us, what are our rights? Do we have a right to have an attorney present? I don't think so. There's a lot of laws that the United States has, we as citizens of the United States, those laws don't work in the international court. So, you know, I wanted to know from him what our rights are as far as human beings in the international court. You know, can we get, you know, because I know in a lot of other countries, the laws are so different. Like, for instance, supposedly here, you're innocent until proven guilty. That won't apply. You know, so that we'll be railroaded regardless. You know what I mean?
Well, you asked them and said, "Can you go directly to the if a cop punches you in your face and leaves you to die, can you go directly to the human rights courts?" He said, "No, you will have to exhort all your, you know, local, then federal, and eventually Supreme Court. If that doesn't work, then you could come to us." That could be. And with another question that Pat, I wanted to ask them, you know, the Supreme Court gets hundreds of cases per day.
Yes.
You know, by the time your cases get to the Supreme Court, you know, your bruise will be healed and you move on with your whole life. You know, you probably got punched 3 other times with some other, you know, by 3 other cops. So you know, so by the time it gets to the Supreme Court. So it's I think the brother means well. I think he really does. You know, I think when it comes to a situation that, and I think the Most High created these avenues for us to get into these avenues, ultimately that it's going to be all to naught. Because at the end, when you have no choice, and you got nowhere to go, what do? You cry to the Most High.
Amen.
And I think ultimately, and all these brothers that are doing this, all these brothers that are getting caught up with this, hope in the system, things of that nature, and I'm not condemning, I'm not saying we should not use these things to help us to some degree, but ultimately the power that's going to help us is going to be the supreme power.
Yeah, and,
you know,
and we definitely should utilize what we can, but it can also become a huge distraction.
Yes.
A huge distraction from what we're trying to do, where we think, like you said, like we've actually got some power and some stepping stones, and that can become, you know, all-consuming. So
yeah,
I do get that.
Yeah, we'll be a broke nation. We have a constitution, we have our courts, but we everybody be broke. We're like, okay, we still the same. I gotta go to work tomorrow, you know, but I'm a sovereign human being, you know, but I gotta still support myself. So absolutely.
But see, just one more other thing, just like Carol was saying. Okay, so we become this sovereign nation. If the world court supersedes the laws of the sovereign nation, then how does that work? You know what I mean? If we have our own laws, it doesn't make any sense.
Right, and well, he said you can't violate anybody's rights and things of that nature. So that means, but the question is, we go back to the same situation, because if we create a nation, right? And these are questions maybe we should have them back to ask, to answer. If we create a nation and there is, for instance, certain people that do not go by the rules that we go establish, like homosexuality, can we exclude this individual? Okay, because generations later, kids are going to be born. I'm pretty sure a lot of them are going to be corrected with those spirits and things of that nature.
Exactly.
And if we say, okay, we can't hire you. You have to leave this nation because you're going against the Constitution of this nation. Okay, or before we even build the Constitution, are they going to be is the word courts are going to be saying, well, you can't put this law here because this goes against this person's human rights. So we'll be back to the same situation that we started in the beginning.
Right. Okay, yeah, thank you, Elder. I just want him to come back and let us know what our rights are under the international court. We can probably do some searching on that.
Yeah, Thank you, sister. Absolutely, absolutely. We have rights, the same rights they give us, and and right now, this and the brother denied it that human rights organization are using the issue that the Nigerian sovereign nation decided that homosexuality is a crime, okay, and we will not allow it in this country. The human rights courts are using the human rights laws to try to bring forth extension in that country and things of that nature. And what was ironic, Israel has been accused of human rights events in their country, and this was the ironic. Let me backward. Let me go back to 1945 when the courts of the human rights institution was created. Israel benefit from those courts because out of those courts they got a settlement. They didn't even went to court, as he said. They just got a settlement. The countries didn't even fought or tried to even debate whether they should give some reparation to Israel and the people from China. Was it China or Japan? One of those, I forget. Somebody, maybe guys, if you know. Japan, right. They actually even didn't go to court. They got the reparation. They used those reparations not to get money to build their country. Now those same people are violating the same rules and law and human rights that they went through in Germany, and the same sanctions have been put upon them. But since Israel has a military force, one of the most powerful military forces in the Middle East, those sanctions don't mean anything. But because Nigeria perhaps do not have the same military force and its military might, okay, those sanctions and economic freedom, because a lot of those natural resources that are in Africa are controlled by European powers, they are suffering from doing. And the ironic thing is, in Israel is the only country in the Middle East that not only allow gays, but actually have the largest gay parade outside of the United States is in Israel. But Nigeria wants to have the right as a sovereign nation not to allow homosexuality in their country, and they're getting the same human rights courts is using the same laws to terrorize one country, but then the other country is actually benefiting and ignoring the human rights courts and sanctions.
Just to look about it. Right now in Uganda, right? They're not even trying. They have put monetary sanctions on Uganda right now because the Ugandan government has decided that, listen, we will not back down. We will not change this. And they have gone ahead and put sanctions on these people. Now, where is the sanction being put on Israel right now for bombing all them people over there on the Gaza Strip? Where are these sanctions? And I'm saying, this is the hypocrisy, yeah? This is the hypocritical, the hypocritical system, right? That our people would rather rely on or would rather go to. You understand me? And actually looking at the problem and seeing really what it is. This human rights thing never come about till 1940 after the so-called fake Holocaust. You understand me? Where are you going to call it no Holocaust no more? Because it wasn't even no Holocaust. You get me? That's a bad day. Okay, that's what it is.
It was a political football. That's what that was.
Yeah, that's all that was. Then now you're telling me now that we can use these same courts to get rights and status for us. Then why isn't that working in America right now where you are? Why isn't that going down right now? It's like you said, political refugee. That sister Shakur, she's in Cuba right now. In Cuba right now as a what you call it, on the run.
Right. Yeah. She's a refugee. Well, she can't come back to the United States, or she'll be arrested.
She's in exile over there. Where's the human rights to her? Where's the human? them three Negroes in America right now, African American human rights lawyers. Why haven't they done something about that? Huh? Why? Hey, anyways. All right. Asata Shakur. Why? Why hasn't they done anything about that? And you go and tell me that we need to form a nation, we need to come together. We need 51%. And check that number, 51%, right? Of the people would have to come together. We can't ever come together. Like you say, you put 5 black people line up together, you say, where you from? You go and get 10 different answers. Okay, every man go and give you 2. You understand me? So you go and tell me you go and put that together. Come on.
Well, first of all, I think he already has the name for this nation. It's called Indigenous African, right? Well, first of all, that would not fly for the Hebrew Israelite community. That would not fly for the Moorish community, because the Moors, I'm not an African. I'm a Moor. I don't classify myself as an African. That's not a race. That's not a nation. I'm a Moor. You got, as a matter of fact, the Moors, the Moors. Matter of fact, we should have a Moor on the show, because the Moors have done what this brother's trying to do already. My understanding, they already have been recognized as a nation. And things that they have certain rights. They could wear those funny hats on courts. Yippee, yahoo, great. You can wear those hats, but you still got to go to work tomorrow morning. I mean, and I think a lot of these situations is like we get caught up with the titles, and we get caught up with, and I think in our mind we feel if more of us become Moors or more of us be identified as Pan-Africans, it's as if something's going to change and things of that nature. And let me just say this. If there is strength in unity, I'm not saying there's not strength in unity. If there's more people wanting a certain thing or a certain destiny, there is strength in numbers. I'm not denying that. That is correct and things of that nature. But what we need to understand within the so-called African American community, we have lost so much, and we are trying to pick up the pieces. And now we identified ourselves with subcultures. So I do believe that within any organization, numbers do matter. And this message is for all the Hebrew Israelites that are out there. The Hebrew Israelite culture has been, I think, the biggest in America than ever before. But we are not more organized. We're not as organized as we should be. Hey. And my advice to any black or Latino man, or indigenous or Native American man that is listening to my voice, if you're not part of an organization, if you home by yourself, and all you're doing is watching YouTube videos, okay, and you just keeping the commandments, which is a good thing, we're not going to get some changes made. There is some strength in unity. There is some strength in coming together and having, outside of being recognized as a nation, we don't need any validation by any European or world court. The same people that put us in slavery to be recognized as Hebrews. We recognize ourselves as Hebrews and things of that nature. But it's very important for you to join an organization. If it's not our church, join a church or make up a church and things of that nature. And don't build a church to just destroy other churches' doctrine. Because there's a lot of churches out there. They're just designed to go out there and look at other doctrine and just do lessons on those doctrines to destroy those doctrines. Build an organization. So there's strength in that. However, we as people need to understand that we don't need anyone to validate who we are. We should just be what we do. And let me just say this: if we do come together as an Israelite as a nation, and we keep the commandments, and more important, we keep Christ as the Lord and Savior, and we be baptized for our sins, whatever we put our hand in, we will be blessed. You get what I'm saying? So the foundation of anything, before we do anything, regardless we're going to be sovereign or get out of this country or stay in this country, whatever it is your thing, your first thing you have to do is you have to keep the commandments, for those curses to be removed from you, okay? And we cannot join an organization that a Muslim is running it, an atheist is running it. This guy is a Moor. This guy is a Muslim, and things of that nature. we have to go together as a Hebrew, because according to the curses of the Most High, if you keep my commandments, bless you going in and bless you going out. Blessed be your storehouse, and blessed be everything that you put your hands upon. Any operation that you're looking to do, it's going to be blessed. So it goes back to the commandments. It goes back to, we have to come back to identity, we have to come back who we are, and then whatever we do, we will be blessed. Now, do I think that we need to have a sovereign nation? We already are a sovereign nation. We don't need to be recognized as a sovereign nation. We already have rights and things of that nature. But to utilize these legal terms of man and things of that nature to help us the end game, I don't mind that. But the first thing, we have to come together as a nation, having one discipline, one establishment, and then we could talk about what can we utilize as a church to help us ultimately get that end game. So we got 4 minutes down to the before overtime. I think we should end the year. Before any last questions, brother? Before we end it.
Yes, just one. I think brother Xavier wanted to just come back in before we head it out.
Brother. Let's bring Brother X. Let's see if we see him here.
And just to piggyback on what you said before, Elder Gabar, about forming a church, right? Form a church, but it don't make sense forming a church if all you're gonna be doing is copying the gathering of Christ Church. You understand?
Right. Or copying any other church, or create a church to prove that your doctrine is the best way by attacking other churches. And let me also say this before you continue, brother. This Saturday, there's going to be we're going to be having a get together in New York. So anybody who's in New York and is a Hebrew Israelite is more than welcome. Whether you know you're a Hebrew or whether you think you're a Hebrew, if you are a black, Latino, Native American, indigenous person, you're more than welcome to come by and things of that nature. If you're outside of that community, I advise not to come, because it's us coming together, just breaking bread and things of that nature. Now, as a church, the Gathering Christ Church, we accept everybody. We're there every Saturday at 123rd Street, 170 East 123rd Street, things of that nature. But this picnic we're having ISUPK, Brother Shabbat is coming, AOC, we're working on the House of David also coming, and some other brothers and things of that nature. And if you're not with a Hebrew Israelite organization or church, you're more than welcome as well. We're not going to be discussing Bible debates or the differences. We're going to come and break bread and things like that. You could bring some food, do that, or should be refreshments, but it should be enough for everybody. It's going to start at 12 o'clock noon at Marcus Garvey Boulevard, which is 123rd and Madison. Marcus Garvey Boulevard Park is by Madison and 123rd. So we're going to be there and things of that nature. If you're looking to come, let me give you the number to call if you want any particular question. But you don't need to call. This it's free. There's no tickets involved. The number would be 646-481 646-481-6315. 646-481-6315. I'm sorry, 15. Let me read that again. 646-481-6315. Okay, so call that number, and if you have any issue with direction or any particular question, you can call that number. But it's for free. You don't have to reserve. You show up and things of that nature. So I just wanted to drop that before we end it.
Okay. All right, and just remind me as well, about we are for the people within the UK. We are in London every Sabbath now. Yeah, we're in London now every Sabbath going forward. And if you're in London and you'd like to join the church down there, send me an email at GOCC144UK@gmail.com. All right, and we'll send you the postcode. Welcome to all. Right now, I realize that this broadcast goes out to a lot of people within the UK. So if you're listening to it and you'd like to join the church, come off Facebook, come off the social media and actually meet real people, actually gather and break bread together with people. You understand me? This is your opportunity.
Yeah, and before we go about to go to overtime, if you want to call in, you're going to get cut off. Or if you're not calling, you're going to cut off. 646-200-4309, 646-200-4309, and we are on overtime. Great, brother.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, any unity, any unification that we need to do, any sovereign that we need to form, anything like that, anything. It needs to be done under the Messiah, under Christ, not under the UN, not under the Human Rights Court, not under any other ideology, not under Islam or nothing like that. We have to unite together, come together, unity in strength. You understand me? We come out in forces. We bring our creativity to the table with order. You understand me? And build a nation like that. Like I said, man, the door is open for anyone who would like to fellowship with us. In the London region, we also have fellowship in the north in Manchester, further north up in Bradford, in the Midlands, also Birmingham. We have a congregation there throughout the UK. So whichever part of the UK you are, and you'd like to fellowship with the Gathering of Christ Church, email us at GOCC144UK@gmail.com. And for this email also, I'm putting this out there for people within the Caribbean as well. If you'd like to fellowship and get together with us as well. We have brothers out there in Jamaica, as far south as Guadeloupe, okay, and St. Vincent, Antigua, you name it. So please link up. Let's direct you to where there is trained representation of the church, of the Gathering of Christ Church. And start linking up, man. Let's come off of this YouTube, this Facebook, sort of environment, and to all the people out there, all the people out there who sitting down and just watching the church's videos and then going out there and copying literally, verbatim the church. I've seen videos out there with brothers even in the way that they're teaching, trying to even sound like Elder Rawchaa, man. Listen, yo. We need to come out of that, people. That is just madness. You understand?
You should respect your teachers and those that bring you into this word, and you should not build in another man's foundation. Okay, I come from the school of thought. If somebody brought me some understanding, I will always, show respect and loyalty to that teacher. So absolutely, you should. Everything should be done in decent and in order. And yes, you are not allowed. As an individual to speak in the behalf of a Gathering of Christ Church within the GOCC name, if we do not give you permission. All deacons and bishops in the church were ordained by the elders to represent them, and we go by that understanding. Brother X, I know you want to come in and say something.
Yeah, a lot of people touched on it, but I just wanted to bring out some of the key things to the brother was that he's dealing with international law. He was saying that there's international law, then there's the World Government Court, or he had different courts, and there were different levels. Of course, there's something higher than the Supreme Court, and he's saying one of them was the Human Rights Court. Then you got the World Government Court, and then my main thing was and also then you have the military court. So I understand law. I understand law to a certain degree. I got a little bit of information on it, but my whole thing is, what's law to lawless people? The people in this country don't even go by their laws. Mm-hmm. The people outside of this country don't go by their laws. Even if we started enforcing and making these laws, you always going to have these lawless people. Mm. As much as we want to fight for our rights, we shouldn't even have to be fighting for our rights. We have God-given rights. There is no man or no woman or no government that can give you these rights. You already got them.
Right.
So my main thing was, that I was trying to show to the brother, it was going to be
certain levels. Who's over the human rights? The world government. Now, who's over the world government? And we know, according to our Bible, the earth was given into the hands of the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to keep fighting in these courts until the end of time. And then to say, let's say what he's saying will happen or does happen. We all go, we establish our own country, we establish our own everything. We got what a regular country has. We are going to be just like any regular country throughout the world, subject to other countries using military might to take down the country, like they've done any other country on this planet, on this earth, should I say.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, so we still going to be subject.
But you know what it is? I think, yeah, go ahead, brother. Finish the thought.
Yeah, I was just going to say, even if we did that operation, what he's telling us to do, we still going to be subject to somebody, and not only that, what's going to rule over it all is military might. And if we don't got military might, we going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I'm very concerned, going back to the irritated genie, that he's advocating violence and things of that nature. With what military will you be able to eradicate every white person in the face of the earth as you advocating? So a lot of these guys, they took a good game, but they don't come up with a game plan because there is no game plan. It will be impossible for you to, you need a military to do that. Anytime there's been any form of genocide, you need a military and things of that nature. So regardless, do I believe that it's concerned about being an agent? Yes. But even if he's not an agent, he may be a useful idiot that's running around. He may think that he's doing the right thing, but he doesn't know that he's doing more harm than good, because ultimately there is nothing going to come out of that with the belief that we should eradicate the white race. There's nothing going to come out of that. We're not, keeping the commandments of the Most High is what we need to go back, and then we can focus on what we're going to do within the commandments and within a people in a society and things, and we can come together. All the other nations do that, absolutely. But going back to what you were saying, I think the European powers, what they do is they create these things for the sole purpose of
distraction.
For distraction, but also they create these word courts when they need something. See, it wasn't slavery that prompted the United Nations to come together and make sure that these tragedy doesn't happen again. It was the Germany, the World War II, when white people got killed. And now when they created that same principle, and then went to the courts and used the argument of the human rights violation. Not only did they won, they didn't even have to go to court. They used the argument of human rights that they created themselves to get the money and the resources to start their own country. And we as black people, we go and instead of the United States and all the countries say, you know what, you don't have to file these papers, black people. We're gonna settle because it's the right things to do. No, it got thrown out because we went to the wrong court, as the guy said. We filed it. We did a mistake, and we have, it's stuck in some legal mumbo jumbo because we did a mistake. We have to jump over hoops to get the same rights that people of European descent and Japan descent and things of that nature, that from the human perspective, they had all the rights to ask for reparations. So the question is, why we need to, go through court and go throughout get tied up in legal mumbo jumbo, because this is not the only guy that has come together and filed paperwork for reparation. Reparation has been done, people all through the 60s and things of that nature, and is tied up in legal mumbo jumbo. So we just have to take from that perspective that we're not knocking what the brother's doing. We're not knocking what, if anybody's using these legal terms or understanding legal, having a legal, even a legal department within their church or their organization. I think we should, to defend ourselves to some degree. But ultimately, when it's all said and done, it's going to be the Most High in Christ saving us. So, go ahead, Brother X.
And that's what I was going to say also. Like, what he's doing is he is partaking in something that Europeans built. Whether it's law or not, it's a government that they built. It's a world government that they built. It's human rights that they've established for humans. And the biggest mistake we keep making is saying that we're all equal, you know.
In their eyes, right?
Yeah, and exactly. And when they created human rights, they only created it for them. That's why I asked them. So, did Africans partake in this? No, they were enslaved. So when they created human rights, they didn't create it for actual people, our descent.
Right.
You know, else it would have been like, oh, they're humans too. But obviously, we're not human. But on the other hand, him having all this knowledge and him having all this information, we are the world government. The 140,000 is the world government. But would fit perfectly in establishing our world government as the children of Israel. Right. So him partaking in learning all this information would be a benefit, but the issue is now is that he's trying to get how the Bible say we look for other nations to deliver us. We look for everyone else to take care of, to enforce everything. Lamentations chapter 4. Yeah. It's like our eyes fail because we look for other nations to comfort us, and it ain't gonna happen.
Absolutely.
So when we got to put in sanctions and stuff like that, we got to put liens on them. These liens and stuff like that takes years to fulfill. And then if you want to carry out a lien, say if you put a lien against a house, you got to call the sheriff, right? To take the house or take things out of the house, so forth and so on. If you put a lien on a country, you got to call in an army to actually enforce it. And us as Negroes, we just not that kind of people. we
right.
shepherds. Yeah. We shepherd kings.
Ultimately, if the courts don't have the force to back up their courts, is really ultimately is you still in the mercy of the agreement of everybody agreeing that they're going to go along with this. And it has been proven the countries have not gone along with those sanctions and things of that nature and those human rights. Israel is a good example and things of that nature. So, if you don't have a military might and things of that nature to back up your laws, ultimately you are still under the mercy of that person agreeing to do it.
Exactly, and that was my thing too. Because if you created everything and say, "Hey, we going to live on Antarctica," and us being the children of Israel, the Most High, like, "Oh, I don't want my people to freeze," He'll shift the whole earth, and next thing you know, all the Europeans is coming to Antarctica with their guns, talking about, "Oh, this is a good land, we need it."
Exactly. So there's something underground that we needed, and it's a survival, and we're sorry, you got to move over here. I mean, it always comes back to military might. So absolutely.
That's what he said, and I wanted to show him when they bring that military, your rights go out the door.
Exactly.
That's why we say martial law in America. Why? Because your rights, as martial law is here, your rights don't exist. When it comes to I got the gun and you don't got nothing, or you got paper, or you got money, it don't matter.
Exactly.
That's all I wanted to bring forth, man.
Thank you for Brother X for sharing and bringing that information and fire. Brother Gaja, any last words?
Keep safe till next week we'll talk again. Wish you all the best for the gathering on Saturday with the other brothers. Man, I wish I could fly over there and be with you. But,
wish me luck. Wish me luck.
I send a prayer up for you with me,
Absolutely.
Most time willing it all goes well, and Come Yasha Allah, man, and rise Israel, and yo, people, we need together, we need to come together. Come off of Facebook. Leave Facebook alone. People, you with me? And that's it, man. Till next week. Shalom.
There's a war going on.
It's a war going on inside, no man is safe from. Moving our deck, you're welcome to the womb of Rebecca. Battleground for a future election. This ain't a seesaw, cause we are the natural selection. If you're born first Esau, you're here, I'ma catch it. You ain't stealing my blessing, I ain't feeling your spirit. That's what we fighting for. You wanna be right, even when you're wrong. How could you know that you're off and speak like you're on? I need a witness in the earth or in heaven. Somebody please read these brothers Romans 9 and 11 or Obadiah, cause you open up your eyes with his message. Stop, I'm trying to just chill, you're moving a lot. You know we tethered together whether you like it or not. Let me drop you some knowledge, and we ain't even in college. If you hunting and get hungry, you gon' eat from my pottage. Whether raw or solid, and you don't see no problem with making war, so your fall gon' be worse than Sodom and Gomorrah. I can tell from your aura that keeping it simple is simply too boring. We in the matrix and you making it hard for our mother. But since the Most High said that we brothers, I'ma do my best just to show you I love you.
Jacob and Esau. There's a war going on. No man is safe. There's a war going on outside. No man is safe. There's a war going on. No man is safe. There's a war going on outside. No man is safe.
You think you cool, fam? Smooth, man. I'm red all over. Hairy like a garment. You are just a farmer. I'm a cunning hunter and I love it in the forest. Let's keep it real, I'm a man of the field. You stay close, I play far. I've been hard, I squeeze first, ask questions last, ask Nimrod. Any country in my path, they'll be dead all over. Cause I plan to write the history that's read all over. When you talk about fear, then you know I'm there. I love beef, not street, baby, medium rare. I live up in the clefts with the eagles of the air. Yeah. And I put them on the flags in the cities I built. Call it the land of the free. You can live in your filth. I only have one rule, homie, do what thou will. I'm a giant, I ain't lying, I can show you my stilts. Cause I'ma stand on the people trying to be my equal. I'ma tell you what the truth is, you'll never see a lie. You'll never realize that they'll never really rise. Cause my scheme is a pyramid theme and I'm the CNI. You can keep my birthright, alright? To tell the truth, I just wanna see you